Chapter 49. On this day, there was a faint, unusual aura in the air at number 59 high school. The wind rustled on campus, and there was a storm everywhere. Senior He Buffeng, with a total score of 8,823 in 3 years, was actually in class. The students were silent, and the teachers wept. No one knew what on earth had happened to this delinquent in the last 24 hours. Tang Jingze felt that this was very unusual, and that there was most likely something fishy going on. It was much more shocking than director Xie Huichuan's relationship. Although Tang Jingze didn't know exactly what had happened to He Buffeng, based on He Bufeng's performance, Tang Jingze could more or less guess that He Buffeng had been thoroughly defeated in his showdown with number 60 high school's pretty boy with the crew cut. Otherwise, given He Bufeng's learning attitude, he would never have degenerated to the point of abandoning himself to attend class. Through He Bufeng's incident, Tang Jingze also saw the essence of the situation. This bunch of people from number 60 high school were simply the bane of number 59 high school. They were truly a toxic bunch. Since coming to number 60 high school, there was no need to mention the damage they had done to the school's public facilities. Even director Xie Huichuan and number 1 delinquent, He Buffeng, had fallen into their hands one after another. In Tang Jingze's heart, these two people had been godlike figures who were like two high towers. But now, with number 60 high school's arrival, they no longer existed. Tang Jingze completely understood that this was a bunch of people he couldn't afford to provoke. He was just a mere president of the student union. It really wasn't worth risking his life for this bunch of people. Tomorrow was the last day of the student exchange meet between number 59 high school and number 60 high school, and the curtains were about to be drawn on that crucial spirit sword exchange meet. Seeing that the spirit sword exchange meet was about to begin, the number 60 high school students were a little restless. It was impossible to say that they weren't nervous. After all, this was a matter of honor for both schools. Everyone's level was actually about the same, and it was a competition of concentration. But this kind of thing couldn't be said for sure, and had a lot to do with one's mentality. Everyone usually trained in a relatively closed environment. But tomorrow, under the gazes of thousands of people, they would represent the school to demonstrate their ability to control spirit swords. Even a small mistake might cause the entire situation to collapse. Of course, the spirit sword exchange meet wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most frightening thing was that Old Antique announced another piece of bad news that afternoon. Mother Wan was here. This news was far more frightening than the fear brought about by the spiritual sword exchange meet. Speaking of which, Mother Wan was also a senior at No. 60 high school. She had worked diligently in the school's canteen for over 100 years, and even the first-generation teachers of number 60 high school had eaten her communal pot of rice. One of Mother Wan's memorable traits was that her hands wouldn't tremble when she scooped food, especially when she scooped up meat. She was always generous in scooping up a big spoonful of food, eager for the students to eat more. So until now, Mother Wan's era of communal rice was still a memory for many people. Quite a number of number 60 high alumni who had graduated would ask to try Mother Wan's cooking again when they returned to their alma mater to visit. Back then, every dish she made could be considered a classic. However, this was only limited to that time. Around a few years ago, Mother Wan had suddenly asked Headmaster Chen to bring along 2 disciples to cook for her. Mother Wan herself had decided to retire behind the scenes to research new dishes. Headmaster Chen had thought that this was a good thing. But no one had ever expected that Mother Wan would embark on a path of no return with dark cuisine. Mother Wan was a violent person, and this violence wasn't only reflected in her research of new recipes, but also in other aspects. Back when Shadow Stream had attacked number 60 high school, Mother Wan had smashed one of the assassins to death with a large soup ladle. Back when Ajua had graduated, Mother Wan had already completely bid farewell to her era of communal rice. The 2 disciples she had now brought along were pretty average at cooking, and weren't even 1/10 or 2/10 of what she had been at her peak. This was Old Antique, the famous foodie at number 60 high school, who had personally experienced the difference between the former and the latter. Of course, while these 2 disciples weren't very good at cooking, What terrified the teachers and students of number 60 high the most was Mother Wan's love lunchboxes, at noon every Friday. Mother Wan's greatest hobby was to seal the dark cuisines she had invented into love lunchboxes, and then happily distribute them to all the teachers and students in the school at noon every Friday. It could be said that the teachers and students were miserable beyond words. Number 60 High School's headmaster had changed 5 terms, and Mother Wan had been there since the first term. She had been in charge of number 60 High School's canteen for hundreds of years. It could be said that she was a founding figure. Even Headmaster Chun and Director Sure were very polite when they met her, and no one dared to complain at all. Of course, Mother Wan had also given Headmaster Chun this lunchbox with the dark cuisine sealed in it. At that time, Headmaster Chun had braced himself to eat the stir-fried chili mooncake in front of Mother Wan's smiling face. After all, it took a lot of time and effort to prepare these lunchboxes. Although the cuisine was very dark, Mother Wan's intentions were very sunny. The path of exploring cuisine was a very difficult one to begin with. Thus, even though the teachers and students of number 60 High School felt bitter in their hearts, they chose to endure it in silence. They could only hope that Mother Wan could come up with new cuisines soon, so that dark cuisine would no longer be dark. The Spirit Sword Exchange meet happened to be on Friday, and Mother Wan prepared the love lunchboxes in advance on Thursday as usual. In the end, when she checked the number of people, she realized that there were actually 6 fewer people than usual on Friday. Mother Wan patted her head, as she instantly remembered number 59 High School's student exchange meet. Without stopping to rest, she hurriedly made 6 special lunchboxes, and flew her donkey brand, Flying Sword on her way to deliver the lunchboxes. And then, there was the current scene. Wang Ling, Lotus Sun, Super Chin, Feather Lin, Hero Gua and Old Antique sat in a row in the quiet school building. In front of each of them was a lunchbox of love, which Mother Wan had carefully prepared. The pink lunchbox didn't hide Mother Wan's girlish heart at all. In front of them was a middle-aged woman, wearing a snow-white chef's uniform, and a light yellow apron. Her curly hair was tied into a small ball under her chef's hat. This was Mother Wan. Hands on her hips, she said in a domineering manner, "Everyone, hurry up and eat while it's hot. These 6 lunchboxes are specially custom-made, and will be delivered early. They can replenish your body with all kinds of nutrients, so that you can better prepare for the Spirit Sword Exchange meet tomorrow." Wang Ling took a deep breath. His sense of smell was much more sensitive than that of an ordinary person. Even though the dark seal on these lunchboxes had yet to be removed, he could still smell a scent that was even more bizarre than the fruit and vegetable juice that Tang Jingza had given him. If they ate this thing, they might all end up dead tomorrow. "Everyone, let's eat. Don't disappoint Mother Wan's good intentions." In the end, Old Antique was Old Antique. Even in this situation, he didn't break his composure, and was very calm. Old Antique braced himself, and took the lead to open the lunchboxes. In the end, everyone was shocked. Today's food actually looked pretty normal? "Is this stir-fried shredded potato?" Old Antique asked as he picked up a piece of crystal-clear shredded potato with his chopsticks. Mother Wan shook her head and said, "No, this is heavenly silkworm potato." Lotus Sun pointed to the tomato slices on the side of the potato shredded. "Then what is this dish?" "Oh, this dish." Mother Wan smiled and said, "This dish is called Holy Shit Tomato." Chapter 50. In number 60 High School, music classes were as rare as Old Antique's theory of history classes. The music teacher was Teacher Ding Dingyu. Come to think of it, he could be considered a veteran in the music circle. He had taught a lot of students, and had written a lot of songs big and small. But apart from that famous ballad of Xu Xian, he didn't seem to have any other noteworthy works. Teacher Ding worked part-time as a music teacher in a lot of schools, and used the pitiful number of classes given to him to unearth young talents with musical accomplishments. Teacher Ding was very bitter, but couldn't say it out loud. A while ago, Teacher Ding had been invited as a guest on a variety show. Then, a group of people had surrounded him, and started to ridicule him one by one. Some people said that Teacher Ding had once been a vein of pop music, and had been at the forefront. Now, after so many years, Teacher Ding was still in the pop music ranks, but he was hovering at the back and refused to fall behind. In order to carry this old man, Huaxiao Nation's pop music couldn't even run. At first glance, this sounded a little sarcastic. Teacher Ding knew that this was just ridicule, and that as a musician, he should have a spirit of entertainment. After hearing this, Teacher Ding still felt a little uncomfortable. But it had to be said that this vicious ridicule also made Teacher Ding re-examine his own musical path. Am I really old? Teacher Ding had never been one to admit that he was old. He felt that he was as young as the children nowadays. But every time he saw Headmaster Chen at school, the latter would respectfully call him Old Ding. This made Teacher Ding feel a heartbreak from the bottom of his heart. A lot of the time, music creation was a matter of theme and creativity. For the Ballad of Xu Xian from back then, Teacher Ding had fused elements of R&B and opera into the ancient style, which doubled the rhythm of the entire song in the early stages. When the opera and the chorus came out, it instantly made people feel as if they were walking on air. Of all the songs that Teacher Ding had composed over the years, the most famous was Ballad of Xu Xian. Apart from that, there were also some songs that Wang Ling liked very much. For example, Eternal Azura, Past Events of the Great Wilderness, and so on. This was a talent, and also someone whom Wang Ling greatly admired. As a composer, Mr. Ding incorporated his own ideas into every song. He tried hard to pass on his years of musical attainments to all the musicians who were currently working hard. Even in the scientific cultivation era, music was still incomparably important and indispensable to the shaping of the mind and soul. Mr. Ding felt that no form of music would ever decline. There would always be a group of loyal listeners. However, as a musician, he had to work hard and pay with his own blood, tears, and sweat. Music is not a jigsaw puzzle. It is not something that can be pieced together. It is also not something that can be imitated by a parrot or copied. Mr. Ding always liked to popularize his music philosophy to everyone in his class. At the same time, he abhorred plagiarism in the music industry. As an original composer, Mr. Ding felt that he could not grow old. He still had many missions to fulfill. The last class on Friday was Mr. Ding's music class. Professor Ding slowly walked into the classroom. The entire classroom was silent, and no one spoke. The students of Elite Class 1 gave this old artist enough respect. However, Mr. Ding seemed a little different today. He seemed especially happy. Did Mr. Ding have some new inspiration? Lotus Sun asked with a smile. That's right. Mr. Ding didn't deny it. I'll be releasing a new song soon. I hope everyone will like it. As soon as he said this, the whole class instantly burst into an uproar. Wow. Mr. Ding is releasing a new song. What kind of song is it? Where did the teacher get his inspiration from? Everyone remembered that it had been a long time since Mr. Ding had released a new song. The older people got, the more cautious they became. Of course, Mr. Ding was no exception. In Mr. Ding's music dictionary, there was absolutely no such thing as shoddy production. As long as he participated in the creation of a song, he would definitely give it his all. This was probably the moral integrity of the older generation of artists. Hearing the students' questions, Mr. Ding smiled. This is a school-style song, and the source of inspiration was none other than you. It was you who inspired me. Mr. Ding, don't hide it. Why don't you sing it for us? If you want to listen, of course that's fine. But I also have two small requests. Mr. Ding smiled slightly. A few days ago, I gave you guitar homework, and I don't know if you've practiced it seriously. I hope that a classmate can step forward and finish the guitar part. In addition, I hope that a female classmate can sing with me. This is a song for a man and a woman to sing together. Before Mr. Ding could finish speaking, Master of Dopey slapped his thigh. My God! Mr. Ding, you're developing toward the legend of the Phoenix. Wang Ling, Lotus Sun, Super Chen, Feather Lin, and Li Xianjing. Classmate Gua, please correct your attitude. After a long silence, Lotus Sun was the first to step forward. Mr. Ding, let me sing. But the guitar. I'm not very good at it. Okay. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Then for the guitar part, I'll pick a random boy. A man and a woman working together won't be tiring. Mr. Ding glanced at the roster and finally chose a name from the thousands of students. Wang Ling, who is classmate Wang Ling. Please come up. Wang Ling. Wang Ling hadn't expected Mr. Ding to pick him up. Wang Ling was used to keeping a low profile and didn't like to show off his abilities in front of others. But since Mr. Ding had picked him up, Wang Ling felt that he had no other reason to refuse. This was a teacher whom Wang Ling respected very much, and he felt that he had to give him this much face. On his arm was the new Dao Talisman seal, which Wang Ming had invented, so for the time being, Wang Ling didn't have to worry about controlling his strength. The first 3 months after the new Dao Talisman seal was when the restraining effect was at its strongest. Wang Ling took out a school-issued practice guitar from his pocket and slowly walked up to the stage. Now I'll transmit the structure of the song to you. Mr. Ding gave a gentle smile, and a spirit light appeared in his hand, which slowly seeped into Wang Ling and Lotus Sun's minds. From lyric writing, composition, arrangement to singing skills, playing skills, after about 5 minutes, the transmission was over. Do you understand? Mr. Ding asked. Wang Ling and Lotus Sun nodded. Then student Wang Ling, student Lotus Sun, and I will present this song, The Helplessness of the Immortal King, to everyone. After Mr. Ding said this, Wang Ling strummed the strings, and then, accompanied by the brisk and refreshing sound of the guitar, the magnetic sound was like a poem floating in the wind, and it had a different kind of charm to it. Last night, I cultivated till the third watch, again troubled by a trifle the helplessness of the immortal king, who on earth can see clearly, a caddy of Dao talismans for ascension, who will listen to the past true wish, in fact, world peace. School life is like duckweed, floating and floating, gathering and scattering, unpredictably chasing dreams, all the way remembering the little elf caught as a child, remembering the awkward scenes of those years. Holding hands, looking UPI, I have seen every year's brocade. Don't look back, with rhythm zinging, the ballad of a common immortal strutting forward, raising one's head. As long as I have you, I won't lose control of fate. Everyone was attracted by the song and marveled at the nostalgia in every word, which was full of charm, like old wine hidden in a cellar. From this melodious and cheerful song, they heard a beautiful prelude to youth. They saw the rolling, never-ending wheel of youth, a simple and unadorned old guitar, gently sweeping away a period of green and lush time. It outlined the long, dusty memories in their minds, memories that seemed to have passed away, but also seemed to have never passed away. The elites of Grade 1, Class 3 couldn't help feeling a little emotional. This was a song of youth that belonged to everyone. The Daily Life of the Immortal King. Theme song, The Helplessness of the Immortal King. List of main writers. / lyrics. Ku Xuanjuan performance. Old People X Feather Sacrifice. Little Rabbit producer. Su Zhao composition. Deep YS arrangement. Mill guitar. Wang Ling mix. Mr. Once Happy May Day, everyone. This song took a total of 3 months to compose. Before I even opened the book, I had been planning for it. From the lyrics, composition, arrangement, recording of the instruments, recording of the vocals and harmony of the singer, to the post-production mixing, and the promotion of the music video. Thank you very much to all the friends who worked together on this song. At the same time, I hope that all the brothers and sisters who truly love The Daily Life of the Immortal King and Ku Xianjun will do their best to support Ku Xuanjuan's creation. This song is currently available for download on NetEase Cloud Music. There may be a delay in searching on NetEase Cloud. If you can't find the song by name, you can search for the singer directly. Ku Xianjun, come listen to the song. On B Station, search for Ku Xianjun. You can also search on the WeChat public platform, Ku Xianjun, with the keyword Immortal King to see it. Chapter 51. Whether it was the heavenly silkworm potato strips or the goddamn tomatoes. As always, the names were filled with Mother Wan's domineering and violent nature. But seeing that today's dishes seemed normal, everyone breathed long sighs of relief in their hearts. Old Antique stretched out his chopsticks and picked up a slice of tomato. Mother Wan immediately added 3 spoonfuls of white sugar from the seasoning bag she carried with her, and then smiled at Old Antique. 3 spoonfuls of sugar goes even better with the goddamn tomatoes. Everyone, after eating Mother Wan's bento made with love, everyone saw her off at the school gate and waved goodbye to her in the breeze. Although the love bento still tasted so strange, everyone was still very touched by Mother Wan's intentions. After checking the number of people, they realized that 6 people were missing. This old mother immediately remembered the group of students from number 60 high, who had come to the exchange meet between the 2 schools, and had hurried over to deliver the love bento that could only be eaten on Fridays in advance. It was worth mentioning that every time Mother Wan made the bento, she would count the number of people very precisely, no more and no less. Apart from Mother Wan, no one else in number 60 high could do this. This old mother, who had been in charge of number 60 high for 100 years, truly cared about the students and teachers of each batch. Goodbye, students. I'll come back to the Spirit Sword exchange meet tomorrow, if I have the chance. Moi. After that, Mother Wan waved at everyone and left them with these chilling moi words. She then stepped on her donkey brand flying sword and flew off in a cloud of dust. There seemed to be a lot of things to do on the eve of the Spirit Sword exchange meet. As soon as Mother Wan left, Wang Ling's eyelids started to twitch. Disaster level, 2 stars. Wang Ling could more or less guess what was going to happen. The Dao Talisman seal on his arm was about to expire. It wasn't hard for Wang Ling to figure out what was going to happen. It was obvious that that guy was coming. That annoying guy whom Mother Wang had contacted before. Ever since he was a child, Wang Ming had always been a huge headache for Wang Ling. Even though the state classified Wang Ming's true identity as a state secret, and didn't stint on lavishing praise on him, comparing his brain to something even more terrifying than a holy weapon, Wang Ling's impression of his cousin was still limited to those 99 stupid challenges. To put it bluntly, this guy was just an idiot. Moreover, this kind of stupidity was also reflected in many aspects. Of all the stupid things Wang Ming did, the one he enjoyed the most was pretending to be a cultivator. It was 4:30 p.m. on Thursday. School ended on time for number 59 high school, and there was a constant stream of students heading to the school gate in 2s and 3s. A man also stood at the school gate on time. He was dressed in coarse hemp clothes, and his thick black hair was neatly trimmed. The man carried a long sword that weighed at least 50 kilograms on his back. He looked like an ascetic who traveled the world all year round. Unfortunately, his attire didn't match his temperament. If someone with a higher realm used their spiritual sense to scan him, they would immediately know that he was a muggle without any spiritual power. The essence, energy, and spirit of a cultivator contained a kind of natural essence energy. This kind of essence energy originated from heaven and earth, was born from the Dantian, and circulated through the meridians of the entire body. Over time, it could change a person's temperament from the inside out, making their eyebrows shine brightly, and their footsteps as light as the wind. A true cultivator could even give off a faint fragrance. Standing at the gate of number 59 high school, Wang Ming sighed in his heart. Even though he was young and promising, elegant, and extremely talented in cultivation, having talent didn't mean that he could cultivate. Because of his physique, Wang Ming had realized at a very young age that he had no fate with cultivation. Hence, he had devoted 100 times more energy to scientific research, watching impatiently as the Foundation Establishment high school students passed by him. Wang Ming couldn't help but look a little envious. If it wasn't for his physique, given his cultivation talent, a mere Wang Ling wouldn't be his match at all. Wang Ming thought regretfully in his heart. Sir, who are you looking for? Number 59 high school's school guard came over and asked a little warily. With the Spirit Sword exchange meet coming up tomorrow, number 59 high school had increased its efforts to investigate suspicious people inside and outside the school. Even parents had to report to the teachers in advance before they could enter the school, and the teachers had to call the school guard office to request permission before they could enter. But this person had been standing at the school gate since 20 minutes ago, sighing as he did so. The school guard thought that this person was a little strange. Looking at the old man, Wang Ming suddenly came back to his senses. Hello, fellow Taoist. I'm here to look for someone. The old man sensed a trace of an ancient aura from this form of address. He looked Wang Ming up and down carefully again. You're a parent? The old man also had a cultivation, although it wasn't a very high realm. However, he could still distinguish a cultivator's essence Qi, and spirit. The term fellow Taoist was something that big shots with profound realms addressed each other. The old school guard stared at Wang Ming's face for a long time, but no matter how he looked at him, he couldn't tell that this person was a big shot. On the contrary, the more he looked, the more suspicious he felt. Yes, I'm a parent. I'm here to look for someone. Wang Ming carefully calculated his seniority. When all was said and done, he was also an older brother. He was a whole 6 years older than Wang Ling. It didn't seem wrong to call him a parent. Thus he nodded. Which student's parent are you, and which class? I'm here to look for number 60 high school's Wang Ling. He's representing the school at the exchange meet. The old man was suddenly enlightened. So it was that group of people. But as a student's parent, the old man was still suspicious of Wang Ming's identity. A parent of a foundation establishment student should at least be at the golden core stage, right? Most of the school teachers were at the golden core stage, and the old guard had come into contact with them a lot, so he could still distinguish this aura. It was very obvious that this person didn't have the slightest bit of spirit energy on him. Thinking about the recent assassination attempt by Shadow Stream at number 60 high school, the old guard's thoughts couldn't help drifting. In the last 2 days, the higher-ups had issued clear orders to be on guard for fear that Shadow Stream would take advantage of the Spirit Sword exchange meet to retaliate. Now, number 59 high school's entrance examination was very strict, and internal security had arranged patrols and experts to keep watch. To be honest, the old guard didn't think that Shadow Stream would have the guts to brazenly sneak into the school. But this young man pretending to be a cultivator had indeed successfully attracted the old man's attention. Chapter 52. However, the old man didn't have any evidence to prove that Wang Ming was pretending to be a cultivator. This was a society ruled by law, and everything required evidence. This old man, who had been in the criminal investigation department for many years, naturally understood this principle. After pondering for a moment, the old man held out his hand to Wang Ming. Sir, please give me your ID card. If you're a parent, our school authorities will verify your identity. Wang Ming didn't think too much about it, and straightaway fished out his ID card from his pocket. The old man took his ID card, turned to the guard room, and took out a portable card scanner before inserting his ID card into it. For the last 2 days, number 59 high school had been on high alert in order to ensure that the exchange meet between the two schools could proceed smoothly. This portable card scanner was used to check the identities of suspicious people. Generally, the school would only use it during the college entrance examination. As long as the ID card was inserted into the scanner, it could instantly verify whether it was real or fake. This old man, who was experienced in criminal investigation, thought that if this person had really been sent by criminals, it was likely that his ID card wasn't real either. It had to be said that the old man's judgment in criminal investigation was indeed very good. Wang Ming's ID card was indeed fake. But the producer of this fake ID card was none other than Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science. Official forgeries were the most lethal. Wang Ming's identity had always been protected by Huaxiao Nation as a state secret, and no one could find out anything about him. Take this fake ID card, for example. Apart from his age, basically everything else was fake. What birthplace, ID number, and even his portrait had been filtered to make him look good. This could be considered special treatment for Wang Ming, the youngest academician in Huaxiao Nation's history. So, forget a mere old school guard. Even if the cultivation police personally came to check his ID card, Wang Ming wouldn't be able to do it. Wang Ming didn't even have to be modest. In the end, just as Wang Ming had expected, his ID card passed the card scanner very smoothly. Like a POS machine, the card scanner printed out a long list, which gave the old school guard a blank look. Name: Wang Shower. Gender: male. Age: 22. Place of origin: Fragrant Pavilion and Water Pavilion, Yunding Heavenly Palace, Tianba City. Huaxiao Nation. Character experience: Wang Xiao came from a poor family, but he is extremely talented. He is one of the rarest existences in the entire cultivation continent. He has a younger sister called Wang Xiaohua, but unfortunately, she is not his biological daughter. He frequents the auction houses and the underground markets. He has a female confidant, but she was born with energy and cannot take care of herself. At the age of 16, he accidentally gave his first time to the legendary demon Medusa. The above information has been verified by Huaxio National Cultivation Police Department. The old man cursed in his heart when he saw this nonsensical character experience. This experience is even more incredible than a web novel. What surprised the grandpa the most was that this strange and miraculous experience had actually passed the examination of the cultivation police. There must be some kind of deal going on behind the scenes, right? It was actually Wang Ming himself who had written this unreliable life story. Back then, the president of the Cultivation Academy of Science had repeatedly asked Wang Ming to revise it. But in the end, he couldn't dissuade Wang Ming's persistence. Wang Ming had always regretted the fact that he was unable to cultivate despite his talent. So he was very serious about this kind of detail. He wasn't a cultivator, but he still wanted to pretend to be one. Whatever other cultivators had, he had to have it too. Wang Ming had summed up the life story on the ID card based on the cultivation novels he had read. No matter how inconceivable it looked to outsiders, he was at least very satisfied. As for the long sword that Wang Ming carried on his back, it weighed 100 jin, but it was a real immortal sword. Wang Ming had given this heavy longsword the name Xianzhong. Although he didn't have spirit energy and couldn't use it, Wang Ming still braced himself and carried it wherever he went. So to sum it up in one sentence, it was that Wang Ming was stubborn and liked to put on airs. This was also why Wang Ling hated Wang Ming a little. Wang Ming's stupidity was reflected in every aspect. This definitely wasn't just a one-sided statement. Relying on his flawless ID card, Wang Ming had entered number 59 high school as he had wished. But he wasn't in a hurry to look for Wang Ling. Instead, he turned into the grove on the side of the tree-lined path, found a secluded corner, and put down the long sword on his back. As soon as the immortal sword touched the ground, the lawn instantly sank into a shallow pit. Damn it, this sword was too heavy. Wang Ming's forehead was covered in sweat. An immortal sword that weighed 100 jin was like a toy in the hands of any foundation establishment cultivator. But as an ordinary person, Wang Ming felt that his shoulder would be dislocated after carrying this sword for so long without taking a break. I have to deliver the Dao Talisman to Wang Ling as soon as possible. Putting on airs was one thing, but Wang Ming hadn't forgotten his mission this time. Delivering the Dao Talisman was his #1 mission. After all, it was currently the only way to suppress Wang Ling's power. He had to deliver it to Wang Ling before the last Dao Talisman was about to expire. Otherwise, all of humanity could face a crisis. While he was thinking this, Wang Ming decided to set off. Just as he was about to lift the black heavy sword, a pretty girl in number 59 high school's uniform walked slowly toward him from a distance. This was a tall girl, and even number 59 high school's ugly uniform couldn't hide her beautiful face. The school jacket was slightly open, and Wang Ming could even vaguely see the other party's sexy collarbone, and the plump F***K, long, straight black hair. And it was a 36D. Wang Ming was so excited that he sucked in a breath. In a flash, he picked up the 50 jin black heavy sword from the ground and carried it on his back. It was obvious that the frantic secretion of adrenaline had numbed Wang Ming's sensory nerves. Initially, Wang Ming had to crouch down to carry the sword on his back, but now, it was effortless for him to lift it with one hand. "Hello, may I ask, can you do me a favor?" The long-haired girl walked over and lowered her head a little shyly. Her voice was simply too melodious, as crisp as a wind chime, and Wang Ming felt relaxed and happy when he heard it. He had really been cooped up in the research institute for too long, and it had taken him great effort to take 2 days off this time to deliver the Dao Talisman to Wang Ling. Who would have thought that his luck with women would be waiting for him here? Looking at the girl, Wang Ming instantly let his imagination run wild. Even the black heavy sword on his back didn't feel heavy anymore. "Of course, no problem. How can I help you?" As a gentleman, Wang Ming felt that he had no reason to refuse a beautiful woman's request. Chapter 53. When a tall, beautiful young girl delicately stretched out her hand to ask for help, most men wouldn't refuse. At first, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with the girl's words. But anyone who had studied in a cultivation school would definitely be able to pick out a lot of loopholes in her words. First of all, it was impossible for a spirit sword to be stuck in a stone, unless the stone was a divine striking stone. Otherwise, a normal stone wouldn't be able to resist a spirit sword at all. It would be as soft as tofu when cut. Furthermore, the gymnasium in a high school cultivation school wasn't open all day, especially when number 59 high school had been heavily guarded for the past 2 days. Anyone who wanted to use the gymnasium had to submit an application in advance, and it would only be open during the application period. It was closed for the rest of the time. That was because the gymnasium's locker room was a surveillance blind spot, and it was very likely that criminals would take advantage of it. Number 59 high school leaders had already done their best to be on guard, and had thought of everything they could think of. But if the opponent wasn't a normal person, there was nothing they could do. Wang Ming had thought that his spring had arrived. Following the girl's gravitational pull, he floated to the gymnasium, but was stunned to find that the main gate was locked. It had already been closed. This scene finally calmed Wang Ming's feverish mind a little, and the strongest brain in Huaxiao Nation started to feel that something wasn't right. At that moment, the girl who had been walking in front also paused, turned around slightly, and gave Wang Ming a mysterious smile. The main gate is locked. Classmate Jiang, why don't you wait until class tomorrow and ask the teacher for it? This smile was really too strange, and Wang Ming's heart trembled when he saw it. He wasn't a fool. As the strongest scientific brain officially recognized by Huaxiao Nation, even if his knowledge of cultivation was limited to those messy cultivation novels, he still had the basic ability to read a person's body language. His intuition told him that there was something very wrong with this girl's smile. Mr. Wang Xiao, oh no, it's more appropriate to call you Mr. Wang Ming, right? The strongest brain officially designated by Huaxiao Nation? The girl narrowed her eyes and maintained her smile, her expression unchanging. We spent a lot of effort to find you. Wang Ming was frightened by these words. His identity had been closely guarded. To the outside world, he was just Wang Xiao, that Wang Xiao heir who lived in Tianba City's cloud-top heavenly palace's fragrant pavilion. Wang Ming's scalp went numb. Who the hell are you? At that moment, Wang Ming's brain cells started to spin at high speed again. Jiang Luiying. He felt that the name was somewhat familiar. Flowing shadow. Flowing shadow. Flowing shadow. Wang Ming instantly froze. This girl was from Shadow Stream? It seems like our strongest brain has thought of something. The young girl smiled and took off her coat, showing the golden ribbon tied around her arm. Wang Ming was once again absent-minded. Shadow Stream Gold Ribbon Assassin. This was not only an expert assassin, but also an expert among experts. Moreover, a Shadow Stream Gold Ribbon expert signified that this person was also a high-level member of Shadow Stream. Wang Ming remembered that he had once read a confidential report from the Research Institute. Among the top 5 killers on the current international ranking list of killers, Shadow Stream's Gold Ribbon killers occupied the 2nd to 5th places. As for the legendary number 1 assassin with the codename Teacher Killer, to this day, the International Intelligence Agency was able to accurately grasp the information of the top assassin in the world. At the moment, none of this was important. The most important thing was that Shadow Stream's people had actually started to move again. The Spirit Sword exchange meet between the two schools was just around the corner. Needless to say, Wang Ming knew that this group of people probably wanted to stir up trouble again. Although Wang Ming didn't think that this group of people would be able to stir up any waves. After all, Wang Ling was there. In an extremely short period of time, Wang Ming quickly sorted out his thoughts and looked at the young girl as he spoke. Your real target isn't me, right? Seeing that the young girl wasn't speaking, Wang Ming continued. Your goal is revenge. Am I right? You're trying to kidnap me, Huaxiao's strongest brain, and use me as a hostage to hijack the exchange meet between the two schools tomorrow? Jiang Luiying smiled slightly. Let's just say you're right. But have you ever thought that even if you find out my identity, My identity is a secret to the outside world. In other people's eyes, you've just kidnapped an ordinary person of no value. Wang Ming was sure that the young girl wouldn't hurt him for the time being, so he started to calm down. What if we reveal your true identity? Wang Ming was startled by this answer. What's in it for you? As long as it's not good for you, it's good for our shadow stream. The Red Ribbon assassins that we painstakingly nurtured were all killed in a rundown school like that. Now that I think about it, it's still inconceivable. At the Spirit Sword Exchange meet tomorrow, the leaders of both schools will be present. In other words, all the experts will be present. Holy shit! You want to catch us all in one fell swoop? Wang Ming was stunned. What's there to be shocked about? Why not? It was just two ordinary high schools. According to the intelligence, the strongest expert who would be present tomorrow was only at the peak of the late Gold Core realm, right? With just this bit of strength, I can crush one with one hand. The young girl revealed her small canine teeth and smiled sinisterly. Wang Ming. First of all, putting aside the question of whether or not they could crush Wang Ling to death, Wang Ming felt that based on the last time Shadow Stream had sent out their Red Ribbon assassins, it was very clear that Shadow Stream's higher-ups hadn't learned their lesson at all. Speaking of which, they didn't know what kind of enemy they were facing at all, right? This was Wang Ling. Once his power went out of control, even Wang Ming himself would be afraid of him. Miss, I advise you to give up on this idea as soon as possible and go home. Your mom is calling you for dinner. Wang Ming tried his best to persuade her. In this world, there was actually someone even more stupid than him. Wang Ming really couldn't understand why such a cute and beautiful girl would insist on courting death. That won't do. It was clear that the young girl was determined this time. We've been preparing for this revenge operation for a long time. As she spoke, the young girl waved her hand. Spirit light flashed at her fingertips, and a hexagonal crystal instantly appeared in her palm. You should be very familiar with this thing, right? So it was you who stole the Void Stone from the Research Institute. Wang Ming's eyes widened. Wang Ming was very familiar with this thing. This was a magic treasure that was currently being developed. Based on the magic treasure itself, it had been combined with modern space technology and was a cultivation black technology magic treasure that was still in the testing stage. With the power of this magic treasure, not only could one teleport an unlimited number of times within a range of 200 meters, it could also isolate one's aura in an alternate dimension, making it impossible for people to detect it with their spiritual senses. However, such a treasure that was integrated with modern black technology was brazenly stolen from the Research Institute not long ago. Huaxiao Nation's Academy of Sciences had been urgently investigating this matter, but Wang Ming never expected that the Void Stone would actually fall into Shadow Stream's hands. This group of killers who killed without batting an eye had obtained the power of the Void Stone. It was simply unimaginable. With one hand on Wang Ming's shoulder, the young girl skillfully manipulated the Void Stone with the other. Wang Ming felt his vision blur, and when he came back to his senses, he realized that he had already landed firmly in the gym's locker room. Hee, before the Spirit Sword Exchange meet tomorrow, our strongest brain will have to trouble staying here for the night. May I ask, what time is it? It's almost 6 o'clock. What the hell? It's already 6 o'clock? Wang Ming's eyes widened in astonishment. He hadn't given Wang Ling the new version of the Dao Talisman yet. Wang Ming did a simple calculation. It seemed that there wasn't much time left before the old version of the Dao Talisman completely lost its effect. What, your mom wants you to go home for dinner? Seeing Wang Ming's panicked expression, Jiang Luiying couldn't help laughing sweetly. After calming down and thinking for a moment, Wang Ming replied very seriously. Big sister, you might not believe me when I say this. If you don't let me out, the earth might be destroyed. Chapter 54. It took Jiang Luiying about half a minute to digest the information Wang Ming had given her. Then, she pinched Wang Ming's chin and observed him carefully. It wasn't until she confirmed once again that this man wasn't in disguise and was the real Wang Ming that she heaved a long sigh of relief. As Wang Ling's cousin, Wang Ming and Wang Ling actually resembled each other a little. As long as he gave up his old cultivator disguise, Wang Ling felt that this guy could still be considered young and fresh. But the difference between the two was that Wang Ling had never been a narcissist, while Wang Ming would stare at himself in the mirror all day long and be infatuated with himself. In order to prevent Wang Ming from getting distracted during his research, the Research Institute had replaced all the objects that reflected his image. Wang Ming was an idiot, and this idiocy was reflected in every aspect, especially his narcissism. Do you know, in all my years, this is the first time a girl has pinched my chin. Being pinched by a beautiful girl's little hand and stared at for a long time made Wang Ming a little restless. But big sister, now really isn't the time to flirt. I'm giving you 3 minutes to let me out, otherwise the whole world will be finished. When that time comes, forget about your grand revenge. You might not even be able to find your own ashes. Who the F*** K is flirting with you? Jiang Luiying couldn't help swearing, her big 36D breasts jiggling with anger. She didn't speak for a long time, and seriously suspected that she had kidnapped the wrong person. She hadn't kidnapped the strongest brain, but the strongest retard. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Luiying suddenly thought of something. Given Wang Ming's current identity, plus the pressure of work, maybe, there really was something wrong with his brain. People who worked in scientific research tended to have very divergent thinking, and this kind of person was most prone to paranoia. After muttering to herself for a while, Jiang Luiying crouched down and said to Wang Ming, "I'm very sorry, my tone just now wasn't very good. There's something I should confirm with you." As a qualified kidnapper, Jiang Luiying felt that it was very necessary to pay attention to a hostage's mental health. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if the hostage went crazy before he could be used. Furthermore, this was a hostage with paranoia, and was very likely to be suicidal. "What is it?" Wang Ming ducked into a corner of the locker room. "You're delusional, aren't you? In other words, there's something wrong with his brain. You're the one with the problem in your head. You don't have to pretend. I already know." Jiang Lu cupped his chin in his hand and looked at Wang Ming calmly. "I've studied some basic psychology before. With the degree of paranoia that you have, imagining that the earth will be destroyed every day, this is obviously beyond cure. You should pay attention to it. Didn't the Cultivation Academy of Science do anything about it? You need love. The destruction of Earth is real. If you don't let me out." "See, you're acting up again." Jiang Luiying rubbed Wang Ming's head. "Don't worry, our shadow stream killers are all very professional. In order to ensure the value of the hostages, no harm was allowed to come to the hostages before they were used, both physically and mentally." As she spoke, Jiang Luiying gripped Wang Ming's hand tightly. "Believe me, I'll cure you." Wang Ming already didn't know what to say. "How about this? In order to show my sincerity, I'll give you a love hug first." As soon as the girl said this, Wang Ming felt a pair of hands wrap around his back and forcibly encircle him. Immediately after, he felt 2 incomparably huge shadows pressing down on him like Mount Tai, tightly covering his face. Wang Ming. F***K. These 2 things were really too big. He couldn't breathe at all. The girl hugged Wang Ming for a full 2 minutes before she let go. Then, she was stunned to find that Wang Ming had already fainted, and 2 streams of dark red blood were gushing out of his nose. At that moment, Jiang Luiying truly felt the seriousness of the problem. She immediately dialed a number on her wristwatch. "Sister, I've caught the person. But this person seems to have a problem with his brain. My initial assessment is that the other party has a very serious paranoia. I gave him emergency treatment just now, but I didn't expect him to actually have a nosebleed." The voice on the other end of the line was cold and sweet. "How did you treat him?" "Of course it's to give him a hug of love. This kind of serious mental illness needs humanistic care." The woman on the other end of the line clearly sucked in a cold breath. "I understand. Sister, what do you understand? It's not that there's a problem with his brain. It's that there's a problem with yours." Wang Ling stood at the entrance of number 59 high school's dormitory and gazed deeply into the distance, his eyelids twitching at a steady pace for more than 5 minutes. The disaster level had directly risen from 2 stars to 3 stars. Looking at the current situation, this disaster warning still didn't look like it was going to stop. Wang Ling could more or less guess what on earth this warning foretold. The old version of the Dao Talisman seal was about to expire. It would be completely removed in an hour at most. But until now, there was still no sign of Wang Ming. Wang Ling closed his eyes and released his spiritual senses in an attempt to track down Wang Ming's aura, but realized that he couldn't find it at all. He had clearly sensed Wang Ming's aura earlier. Furthermore, he knew that Wang Ming had already entered number 59 high school. Wang Ling had assumed that Wang Ming would arrive soon, so he had waited at the entrance of the school dormitory. But the strange thing was that when Wang Ling tried to track down Wang Ming's aura again, he suddenly realized that it had suddenly disappeared. It was as if Wang Ming had evaporated from the face of the earth. Of course, if Wang Ling's power was completely unsealed, he would be able to immediately track down Wang Ming's aura no matter where it was. But by then, it would be too late. This annoying guy. Had something really happened to him? Wang Ling stared into the air and frowned a little irritably. It was very obvious that something had happened to Wang Ming. Furthermore, it was very likely that his aura had been masked by some magic treasure. Although he didn't know Wang Ming's exact location, Wang Ling was certain that Wang Ming was definitely still at number 59 high school and hadn't left its perimeter. Since he couldn't use his spiritual senses to track down Wang Ling's aura, there was only one way left for Wang Ling to think of. Wang Ling walked under the shade of a small tree, where there was no one around. First, a pair of cat ears appeared on his head, and then his entire body shrank as he turned into a black and white Persian cat. In this critical moment, Wang Ling's first thought was of those little wild cats in number 59 high school's cherry blossom forest. Chapter 55. Whenever Wang Ling ran into any trouble at school, the first thing he thought of was never to ask his classmates or teachers for help. Of course, part of this was Wang Ling's own pride, but more than that, he wasn't used to it. Wang Ling wasn't used to asking other people to do things for him. He was used to being alone, and even if he ran into trouble, he always wanted to solve everything on his own in silence. For Wang Ling, asking for help from his classmates and teachers didn't exist at all. Of course, in an urgent situation like this, there were times when Wang Ling would mobilize a special group of people. These people could be bees flying among thousands of flowers, or they could be little ants everywhere. And then there were the stray cats scattered around the school. In any case, the group that Wang Ling mobilized absolutely couldn't be people. In fact, whether it was bees or ants, they all had their own limitations. Although there were a lot of them, because of their low intelligence, even Wang Ling found it difficult to control them. No matter how melodious your zither was, it was useless to play the lute to a cow. Thus, the stray cats in 2s and 3s on the school were probably the group that Wang Ling was most familiar with so far. In the minds of all stray cats, apart from foraging for food, sleeping, basking in the sun, and playing dowdo all day long, there was one more important thing, and that was to find their own organization and grow up healthily under the care and love of the organization's leader. After a long period of wandering, every stray cat recognized the tragic fact that no shit-shoveling officer would take them in. They put down the last bit of pride in their hearts and began to huddle together with other cats who were in the same situation as them. After all, an unorganized stray cat nowadays couldn't even get a piece of dried salted fish. And this was the cruel reality of cat society. Thus, although most stray cats looked disorganized, they were in fact very disciplined. They would go out for a stroll at a set time, and then return to the secret base at the set time. They would never give the criminals who caused trouble at night the slightest chance to hurt them. So to sum up, this group of stray cats without shit-shoveling officers were actually very united. Take the stray cats in Peiyuan district for example. Each of them had their own team, and there was competition between them as well as alliances. The cat world looked very leisurely and lazy, but in fact, it wasn't as simple as people thought. Cats had their own problems. They would make noise, fight, and claim territories. Of course, they also had their own beliefs. Especially for these thousands of stray cat groups, big and small, The existence they all believed in was Immortal Meow. There were many legends about Immortal Meow, but although they sounded exaggerated, there were 4 things that all the cats believed in the legends that were passed down by word of mouth. There were many witnesses to these 4 incidents, and many of the older generation of stray cats could testify as well. One of the legends, Immortal Meow's origins. Many cats could no longer remember when Immortal Meow debuted. All they knew was that Immortal Meow had appeared very suddenly, coming and going without a trace, like a mysterious dragon whose tail was nowhere to be seen. Most of the time, they would suddenly appear behind a cloud of mist. It gave the cats a feeling that they had the demeanor of an immortal. Over time, the name Immortal Meow came to be. The second legend, it was about Immortal Meow's debut. Immortal Meow's debut wasn't simply because of the way it appeared. It was more because of its innate aura and majesty of an elder. Almost all the kittens remembered the major events that had taken place when Immortal Meow had made his debut. The first was that Immortal Meow had single-handedly wiped out all the rats hiding in the sewers of Peiyuan District within a 5,000-kilometer radius. It had established enough living space for the numerous stray cats who were weak and alone. Rats bred much faster than cats, and there were more than 10 rats in one litter. While most of the stray cats were single, over time, the rats outnumbered the cats. If it hadn't been for Immortal Meow, the cats wouldn't have had enough living space at all, and they wouldn't have been able to establish their own base in the sewers. It could be said that the first thing Immortal Meow did when it debuted was to make a huge contribution to the cats. Back then, the rats of Peiyuan District had either fled or scattered, and some had even been knocked unconscious by Immortal Meow's pressure. Then, the stray cats had picked them up one by one and used them as food reserves. The second thing was that Immortal Meow had popularized the concept of team management to the stray cats. It was precisely because of this that the stray cats now had a home to rely on even if they didn't have a poop-shoveling officer following them. The base they had built in the sewers was their current home, and it was precisely because of the standardized team management system that the stray cats now held their heads high and puffed out their chests, completely ignoring the supercilious looks of the domesticated cats who were being looked after by the poop-shoveling officers. And the third thing was that Immortal Meow had driven away the big dog gang in Peiyuan District, which had taken pleasure in terrorizing the stray cats. At that time, this group of stray dogs, led by a husky, had all been scared witless by Immortal Meow, and didn't even dare let out a fart as they ran. The third legend, Immortal Meow's retirement. After these 3 things had been accomplished, Immortal Meow had gradually disappeared from the sight of all the cats in Peiyuan District. The stray cats had spontaneously organized all kinds of search activities, and some had even crouched in trees 24 hours a day, just to get the slightest clue about Immortal Meow. But unfortunately, their efforts had all been in vain. Immortal Meow had never appeared again. Like Lei Feng, who had helped an old lady cross the road without leaving his name, it had completely disappeared. Of course, despite this, Immortal Meow's position in the hearts of all the stray cats in Peiyuan District was unshakable. This belief had even spread beyond Peiyuan District. It could be said that the cultural beliefs of the stray cats in other districts had now been deeply influenced by the cats in Peiyuan District. Finally, the fourth legend, the image of Immortal Meow. There were many different opinions among the stray cats about Immortal Meow's appearance. Some cats thought that Immortal Meow was a mighty and majestic mutated muscled civet, standing at 1.8 meters tall, the same height as a human. Others said that Immortal Meow was an alien mechanical cat from the future, with a slightly chubby blue body and a noble red nose. As for the cloud of mist that had suddenly appeared, it was very likely that Immortal Meow's steam engine had come into play. Of course, the above legends were all unreliable. As for Immortal Meow's image, the older generation of stray cats had long since settled on it. An old cat born with an unusual physique had once seen it with its own eyes from that cloud of mist. Chapter 56. Wang Ling nimbly jumped onto a spirit-gathering tree and narrowed his eyes slightly as he gazed into the distance. A cat's body was very light, and its paws could cushion its fall as much as possible. Otherwise, Wang Ling wouldn't have dared to jump around like this in his human form. But he wasn't used to it. After transforming into a cat, Wang Ling's field of vision had shrunk a lot. Of course, he was more proficient in controlling his body in this transformation state than He Bufeng. He Bufeng had only used the advanced transformation spell, but Wang Ling had used the Great Transformation spell, one of the 3,000 great spells. The effects of these two spells were the same, but the experience after using them were completely different. The advanced transformation spell often took a long time to practice and get used to anything. The smaller the object, the shorter the duration. The Great Transformation spell, on the other hand, lasted for a long time and wouldn't be affected by the size of the object it transformed into. Furthermore, it wouldn't cause discomfort to the soul. To put it bluntly, one came from an advanced spell book, while the other came from the 3,000 great spells. That was the difference. Standing on the top of the spirit-gathering tree, Wang Ling spread out his spiritual senses to capture the auras of the cats. He had heard a few cats mention before that the boss of this area was called Zheng Tan. Apart from cat boss Zheng Tan, no one else could command the stray cats in this area. The management of stray cats was very strict, and these strict rules stemmed from the team management system that Wang Ling had popularized for them back then. But what surprised Wang Ling was that even after he had withdrawn from the cat world for so long, these cats still strictly abided by the management system. There were always small-scale fights over territory and food resources between the various groups they formed, but at critical moments, the cats were very cohesive and united against a common enemy. Wang Ling usually didn't deliberately pay attention to or care about these situations. That was because he could always learn something from the stray cats on the street corners on his way to school every day through the mind-reading ability. Of course, Wang Ling would never have thought that his unintentional act back then would now turn out to be an important part of saving the world. There was only 1 hour left before the Earth was destroyed. Now finding Zheng Tan, and then using its power to find Wang Ming, had become the key to this entire matter. Perhaps no one could have imagined that the ones who would save the world would actually be the stray cats that had been abandoned by people in the past. Back then, after popularizing the concept of team management for stray cats in Peiyuan District, and after solving the cats' various problems of living space and food resources, Wang Ling had chosen to retire. He remembered quite a few of the cat bosses in those areas, but most of them had been first-generation leaders. The ones that left the deepest impression on Wang Ling were the 3 cat tyrants known as the Little Tigers. Thunder Tiger Tang Shi, Little Handsome Tiger Song Ci, Obedient Tiger Yuan Xiu. These 3 cat tyrants of the past had long since become old cats that sat behind the scenes and gave orders. Based on the scale of their development over the years, Wang Ling felt that these 3 cat tyrants were now each in charge of a cat army. As for Zheng Tan, it was still very small, but as the boss of the stray cats in number 59 high school, it could be considered a leader of the cat group. As the saying goes, don't treat the village chief as an incompetent cadre. Wang Ling didn't discriminate against the village head, nor would he discriminate against a cat. When he returned to the patch of cherry trees, it was already after school, and there were a few students here, and they're looking at the flowers. Wang Ling could smell the sour stench of love in the air. Following the scent, he quickly found the cats who had been rolling around under the cherry trees yesterday, a few hundred meters away. These cats were all hybrids who had been abandoned at a very young age. After all, Wang Ling wasn't a cat expert, and he couldn't tell what breed they were at first glance from their appearance. But it didn't matter anymore. If he wanted to find Zheng Tan, he could only use these cats to lead him there. He had never seen Zheng Tan before, and didn't know what its aura was like. Otherwise he could completely detect it and directly teleport there. After thinking for a moment, Wang Ling strolled over and took the initiative to approach them. But just as he approached them, he once again heard their thoughts. The big cat at the front. Look, there's a girl coming over. 2 cat. Wow. It's a black and white Persian cat. 3 cats. Its fur color is so beautiful, it must be a beauty among cats. For cats. Don't tell me it wants to hook up with boss? Big Cat smiled slightly. Do you even need to ask? Beautiful cats are only fit for the strong. Wang Ling. Damn. I'm a F*** king man. Wang Ling now felt that choosing to turn into such a beautiful Persian cat back then had really been a big mistake. Seeing Wang Ling walk toward it step by step, Big Cat felt that its fur was a little dirty and a little inelegant from rolling around on the ground just now. So it crouched down, bent over, and started to lick the ground, not even letting go of its own little butt. F***K. This was obviously even more inelegant, okay? Fortunately, Wang Ling wasn't in the mood to argue with these cats. Staring at them, he directly asked telepathically, "Where is Zheng Tan?" Wang Ling's deep voice rang out in the four cats' minds, and they instantly looked embarrassed. F***K. They had actually gotten the wrong gender. This cat turned out to be a male. Big Cat instantly looked disappointed, as if it had been rejected by a female cat. It lowered its head and collapsed to the ground. Why, it's a male. Do you have to be so king disappointed? Also, that wasn't the point at all. The point was, where was Zheng Tan? Wang Ling felt that these cats were a little careless. They had actually completely ignored the fact that he had used telepathy. Big Cat weakly raised a paw and lamented. What's the point of a cat's life without a beauty to accompany it? Wang Ling was speechless. But fortunately, he had already made preparations. There was a flash of spirit light on the ground, and the salted fish-flavored crispy noodle snacks that Wang Ling had prepared in advance suddenly appeared. This was all Wang Ling had on him, and he had originally planned to secretly enjoy them in the middle of the night when no one was around. Wow! Limited edition salted fish crispy noodle snacks. The cat's eyes instantly lit up, and Big Cat jumped up from the ground and rudely rubbed Wang Ling's head with its paw. Ha 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 ha. Brother, you're very smart. Since you've asked so sincerely, I'll take you to the boss. This was really a cat that changed its attitude faster than one could flip a book. Wang Ling sighed in his heart. It was said that stray cats were all foodies, and this was indeed true. Wang Ling's heart bled as he watched Big Cat put his 3 limited edition crispy noodle snacks into the Qingquan Space's small belly pocket. At the same time, he had some doubts about the current style of the cat world. He hadn't expected that in just a few years since he had left, these low-level cadres would actually start to openly accept bribes. This matter had to be dealt with strictly and rectified. About 5 minutes later, led by the 4 cats, Wang Ling passed through an inconspicuous little hole in the corner of the Sakura garden. The hole was firmly blocked by 2 thick cherry trees, and it was very difficult to see from a human's point of view. After passing through the hole, Wang Ling realized that it was an alley of residential buildings. On the east side of the alley was a road sign with the words Dahuang Road. Following Big Cat, Wang Ling came to an old willow tree that was so wide that 5 or 6 people wouldn't be able to wrap their arms around it. This tree had been rooted here for at least several hundred years. It was said that it had been struck by lightning, but it still stood firm here. Chapter 57. Wang Ling easily jumped onto a treetop and looked around the small tree hole for a long time, feeling that the space inside was bottomless. He immediately knew that the space inside this tree hole had been developed using space expansion technology. This also proved that Big Cat Zheng Tan's IQ definitely wasn't low. Otherwise it would never have had the intelligence to think of opening up a space. Big Cat told Wang Ling a little proudly that Zheng Tan had put in a lot of effort to open up this space back then. Of course, it wasn't Zheng Tan who had come up with this initial idea, but this old willow tree which had been rooted in this alley for 300 years. According to Big Cat, back then, the spirit chi of heaven and earth had gathered, and the old willow tree had developed spiritual intelligence. In the process of transcending the tribulation, a bolt of lightning had pierced the tree. Unexpectedly, this bolt of heavenly lightning had inadvertently stimulated the old willow tree's vitality. Now, it was the old willow tree's own idea that this secret tree hole could be used by Zheng Tan. It took 100 years to cultivate a person, and it was always good to have a few friends to keep you company. How often does this spirit tree wake up? Wang Ling looked at Big Cat and asked telepathically. You should call him Mr. Tree. Big Cat corrected him. Mr. Tree sleeps for a very long time and only wakes up at night. His surname is Zhou. Wang Ling. Zhou Tree person? Wang Ling jumped into the tree hole with the cats, and it was as if he had entered a space tunnel. After a flash of light and shadow, Wang Ling saw the huge space inside the tree hole. It really was like a secret base in a movie, where all the space had been neatly divided and used. Wang Ling saw 2 or 3 cats in white coats walk by with 2 books on their heads. Big Cat introduced them. This is the research team of Boss Zheng Tan's team. Then, Wang Ling saw dozens of sparrows wearing small goggles pecking harmoniously at the corn in the corn pond on the side. This is our regiment's flying company. Big Cat then pointed to several cats in front of them wearing black face scarves. These ninja cats are from the Special Operations Company. The cavalry company trains separately at another secret base outside the tree hole. Wang Ling asked telepathically. May I ask what your regiment is called? Big Cat pointed at a small stone tablet at the side of the base. On it, 3 words were written in human characters. Independent Regiment. Wang Ling stared blankly at the stone tablet. While he was still in shock, Big Cat pointed at the stone tablet and said, There's Mr. Tree Man's inscription on the back. Wang Ling looked at it curiously and saw 2 lines of a poem carved on it. Left carving. Frowning coldly at Satan. Right carving. Bow your head and be willing to be a girl. Wang Ling was completely stunned. Looking at the overall layout of the space and the team, it had to be said that Zheng Tan was a pretty smart cat. There were cavalry companies, secret service companies, and even air units made up of sparrow soldiers. This was inconceivable. The space inside the willow tree was very big, and the space expansion technology inside was the most ordinary. It wasn't very advanced, but this primitive space expansion technology was able to expand the space inside a small tree hole to the size of a human living room. For these cats, this was already more than enough space. Zheng Tan's office was in the deepest part of the base. Big Cat led Wang Ling to the door of the office and had a few of its kittens wait with him at the door. It looked at Wang Ling and said, Brother, wait a moment, I'll go inform them. Less than 5 minutes later, Zheng Tan came out of the room with cat paws. With shiny black fur, pointed cat ears, and a decorative copper bell on its tail. It buzzed as it walked, instantly highlighting the imposing manner of this independent regiment commander. Wang Ling was sure that Zheng Tan was definitely a cat brought up by Thunderbolt Tiger Tang Shi. Only a cat brought up by Tang Shi would have the air of a cat ruffian. It wasn't hard for Wang Ling to tell from the faint smell that Zheng Tan was enjoying its dinner at this time. Furthermore, it was a spicy seafood-flavored spicy hot pot. Seeing that Wang Ling had turned into a Persian cat, Zheng Tan's heterochromatic pupils involuntarily contracted. For it to be able to sit in the position of regiment commander, it was clearly much more sensitive to Persian cats than that lecherous big cat. Because the legendary immortal Meow was also a Persian cat. Whether it was Tang Shi, Song Ci or Yuan Chu, they had all ordered the cadres in their respective areas to be extremely vigilant and carefully investigate this type of cat. However, Immortal Meow had already retired for a very long time. Zheng Tan usually searched the vicinity a lot, but had always returned empty-handed. Now, it was suddenly told by Big Cat that a Persian cat had come to look for it. This news stunned Zheng Tan. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? Zheng Tan hadn't even finished chewing the spicy fish ball in its mouth when it hurriedly ran out. It carefully stared at the Persian cat in front of it, and then saw the cat directly sit cross-legged and slowly float in the air. Back then, Immortal Meow had only imparted some simple foundation establishment body tempering techniques to the stray cats when it had given them spiritual intelligence. It hadn't personally taught any of the stray cats any immortal magic. A Persian cat that could use the levitation spell. And when it did so, there was even a little mist in the air. There was no need to say anything more as Zheng Tan knew this Persian cat's identity. Zheng Tan. Big Cat. Wow. Brother. What a great magic trick. Zheng Tan really wanted to slap this idiot next to it to death. Great your ass. This is King Immortal Meow. You retard. Meow. Immortal Meow. Big Cat's tongue was tied in fright. Zheng Tan narrowed its eyes. It didn't need to guess to know that this guy had most likely King stirred up trouble again. Boss, I really didn't know. I only received 3 packets of salted fish-flavored crispy noodle snacks. Big Cat stretched out a paw and trembled as it took out the crispy noodle snacks it had hidden in its belly pocket. Zheng Tan slapped Big Cat's head to the side with one paw. This thing that couldn't do anything right, but was good at ruining things. Greedy for beauty and delicious food. Damn it. Deduct bonus. Deduct salary. Don't even think about getting your year-end bonus of small dried fish. How could its chief of staff be such a blind idiot? Shiba. Zheng Tan slapped its face with a paw, so angry that it couldn't speak. Picking up the crispy noodle snacks from the ground, it instantly felt a lot better. Without wasting any more time with Zheng Tan, it stretched out its paw and drew a portrait of Wang Ming on the ground. At the same time, it sent a telepathic message to Zheng Tan to explain its request. Wang Ling hadn't used this space shorthand technique ever since he had won the national art competition as a child, because it was simply too eye-catching. Zheng Tan nodded and turned its head to look at its chief of staff, only to see that this guy was lying on the ground with a paw over his ear, repenting. Big Biao, you idiot. It's time for you to atone for your sins. Chapter 58. It could be said that Peiyuan District was the birthplace of the stray cat team management system. After years of development, there were now more than 1,000 stray cat teams of all sizes in Peiyuan District alone. The 3 leading Cat World Army commanders, Tang Shi, Song Xiai and Yuan Chu, were each in charge of their respective divisions. One army led 3 divisions, then one division led 3 brigades, then one brigade led 3 regiments. In terms of the scale of its construction, Zheng Tan's independent regiment could absolutely be called an ace regiment. Now that this ace regiment had all heard the order and set out in full force, the scene and scale were truly shocking. The old willow tree in the alley was just one of Zheng Tan's core headquarters. Surrounding this core headquarters were more than a dozen secret bases of various sizes on the number 59 high school campus. Furthermore, most of them were in tree holes. Now they were like a swarm of bees. The number of sparrows alone had already exceeded 1,000. As they flew in the air, they were like locusts attacking, mighty and domineering. Together with the remaining cavalry battalion, infantry battalion, special agent battalion, as well as the regular battalion, Zheng Tan's independent regiment already had more than 10,000 soldiers in all of its categories. It was almost a full division of troops. Facing the night sky, even Wang Ling couldn't help sucking in a cold breath as he watched the independent regiment sparrows swarm the number 59 high school campus in full force, as well as the stray cats appearing in the grass, treetops, and every little corner of the campus. Fortunately, it was already after school. Otherwise it would be hard to avoid attracting attention by mobilizing so many people, and they might end up on the hot news the next day. The uncle patrolling every corner of the campus couldn't help frowning as he noticed that there seemed to be an especially large number of stray cats on campus today. On average, there were 3 to 4 of them lying on the dozen or so small benches on the campus. There were also some kittens that were openly doing indescribable exercises in public, which made the old school guard's face flush with fascination. Considering that it was spring and the mating season for animals, the old man didn't disturb the cat's pistoning exercise. After patrolling the area and finding no suspicious people, he turned off his flashlight and left under the moonlight. The truth was that these cats were extras that Zheng Tan had invited. They were used to attract the attention of the patrols, and the real troops were well hidden. As soon as the security guard left, the pairs of glowing eyes in the bushes opened. Cats had very good night vision, and their movements were fast, agile, and sensitive. When the hiding cats jumped out of the grass, they didn't even make a sound. The operation was smoother than expected. The commander of this operation was Zheng Tan, and the chief commander was a black-spotted, short-tailed cat. It was a little bald, and Zheng Tan had given it the nickname Monk. The monk was the battalion commander of Battalion 1, and was the cat soldier that Zheng Tan was most satisfied with so far. In the 1st Battalion, the monk's soldiers had a very accurate impression of the monk, which was that he was extremely intelligent. In the past, he had only enlightened the 3 cat tyrants in the Little Tigers. The other stray cats had been able to develop to this point because of the 3 cats, Tang Shi, Song Xiai and Yuan Chu. Of course, he wasn't the first to enlighten a stray cat. Nowadays, there are many cultivators who have their pets awaken spiritual intelligence. Hamsters, centipedes, turtles, rabbits, Pikachu. As long as you can think of it, they have it. It was worth mentioning that monks were born with high intellect. Back when Zheng Tan had brought the monk along, it had been quite easy and hadn't taken the slightest bit of effort. The monk had learned how to catch mice as soon as it came out of its mother's womb. Now that it had awakened spiritual intelligence, the monk could use its agility and intelligence to easily toy with more than 10 dogs in the palm of its hand. The monk stood firmly on the command platform, where the PE teachers usually directed the jumping exercises. A moment later, the cats that had been sent out to search Battalion 1 returned. Any results? The company commanders meowed at the monk for a long time, and the monk's whiskers trembled slightly. Have you searched the classrooms, corridors, and offices on every floor? Then the results were already very obvious. Only the gym was left. What was a man doing in the gym in the middle of the night? Peeping on a female student training, and in the end being locked in the gym? Bloody hell! How bad was this person's sense of humor? As a cat that had already seen through the world of mortals, the monk already felt powerless to complain. But this was the person Immortal Meow was looking for, so the monk couldn't say anything more. Wang Ling had always felt that the stray cat force had great potential. Although they usually looked lonely and didn't have a shit-shoveling officer to look after them, they were all alone. But as long as they gathered together, they could play a very big role. Back then, uniting these scattered stray cats had just been Wang Ling's idea, and he had inadvertently sown it. Who would have thought that it would now turn out to be of great use? There was less than half an hour left. Wang Ling could sense that the power of the Dao Talisman seal was becoming weaker and weaker. The more Wang Ling didn't dare to make any big movements, the more he was afraid that his aura would pour out uncontrollably like a flood. Fortunately, Zheng Tan soon received news from its side. A sparrow very quickly relayed the results of the frontline investigation to Zheng Tan as soon as possible. Zheng Tan nodded and looked at Wang Ling as it said, "Immortal Meow, we've confirmed the location. It's in the gym." Gym. Given his spiritual senses, it was impossible for him to not be able to penetrate the gym. Wang Ling felt that the magic treasure used by the people who had kidnapped Wang Ming definitely wasn't simple. At the very least, this magic treasure definitely had the same material as his talisman seal, which was why his spiritual senses were in a blind spot. But now that the location had been confirmed, the rest was easy. Wang Ling and Zheng Tan then arrived at the entrance of the gym, which was tightly shut. A sparrow perched on a skylight above the gym, and finally confirmed Wang Ming's specific location. This guy was in the girls' locker room. Wang Ling and Zheng Tan circled around to the back of the gym and faced a thick wall. The entire gym was made of black crystal. It was very hard. There was no way it could be broken using normal methods. Of course, if the talisman seal was still in its normal range, Wang Ling would naturally be able to break it effortlessly. But the current situation was special. The talisman seal was about to expire, and Wang Ling was very afraid that if he punched it, the entire gym and everything within a radius of 100 li would be destroyed. After thinking for a while, Wang Ling ultimately didn't make a move, and just looked at Zheng Tan. Zheng Tan was instantly filled with deep veneration. Of course it didn't doubt Immortal Meow's strength. How could a mere broken door stump Immortal Meow? Zheng Tan felt that Immortal Meow was clearly giving it a chance to show off. Immediately, Zheng Tan got excited and meowed loudly behind it. "2nd Battalion Commander. 2nd Battalion Commander, where's your F*** King Dolly cannon? Bring them up here and blast this broken wall open for me." Chapter 59. Huaxiao Nation's Yadali Special Treasures Research Bureau. This was a place that specialized in researching special magic treasures and was very well known in Huaxiao Nation. The leader was Billy, a military firearms expert from the United States. He was nicknamed King Billy. In the past few years, King Billy had led his team in the research of special magic weapons and had made major breakthroughs in scientific research theory and technical research. It crushed all the special magical equipment research departments. Although the name Yadali Special Treasures Research Bureau had been registered for a long time, it had only become popular in the past 2 years. The special artifact developed by King Billy's team had 3 characteristics, each of which could be summed up in 3 words. It all boils down to Dali. First of all, the word E represented surprise. Most of the special magical weapons developed by King Billy's team had this distinctive feature. It always made people's eyes light up. Secondly, big. Not only did this mean that it was extremely useful, but it also meant that it could be used a lot. Generally, special magic treasures had a limited number of uses and could not be used more than 3 times. After 3 times, the special magic treasure's unique magic halo would disappear. As for the special magical weapons developed by King Billy, each of them could be used at least 10 times. Finally, profit. This word also had a double meaning. On the one hand, it represented the convenience of using magical treasures and the simplicity of operation. On the other hand, it was also taken from the name of King Billy. It had a rather profound connotation. Over the years, King Billy's team had introduced quite a number of special magical weapons that were convenient to use. Among these magical weapons, the most popular one was the Yadali Cannon. Yadali Cannon Magic Weapon Usage Count 10 Applicability. This product is suitable for all kinds of situations. It can easily shatter dark iron, dark crystal, and other solid materials. Instructions for use. This product uses the sound channel to fire, only effective against buildings. After the first shout of fire, the cannon would automatically aim at the target and confirm the trajectory. After the second shout of fire, the muzzle would automatically heat up and enter the charging mode. After the third shout of fire, the Cloud Dragon missile in the barrel would be launched. When the commander and the 2nd Battalion commander cooperate to fire, the power of the Cloud Dragon missiles will automatically increase by 20% for every additional female in the building. The attack power increases by 10% with a limit of 100%. Back then, the instructions for using the Yadali cannon had been spread all over the streets and alleys. This passive effect of automatically determining one's identity and the number of females to increase its power was the most magical part of this magic treasure. Some people said that King Billy was the first person to perfectly illustrate the uniqueness of a special magical weapon. That was because the products developed by King Billy's team were all very exotic. But although King Billy's cannon was a hot product, they were not cheap. King Billy was. It was illegal for ordinary cultivator residents and commoners to use such a special magic treasure on the streets. As for Zheng Tan's Yadali cannon, it naturally hadn't been bought. Wang Ling read from Zheng Tan's memories that it had seized it from number 59 high school's former boss, Mountain Pao, around half a year ago. Shan Pao was a lustful poodle. Because it had the bloodline of a spirit dog, it had a certain level of intelligence. Shan King Dan, Days Dan Dog Treasure of An In and Dan Dan God. Shan Yang Dan Dan Wolf. Shan Dan Dan Spirit Dan Kingdom, Dan King Dog Dan Spirit. The Yadali cannon had been Zheng Tan's spoils of war when it had destroyed the Mountain Artillery Command Center. But Wang Ling felt that the reason why such a lethal special magic weapon could fall into the hands of a group of intelligent animals was a little complicated. These stray cats respected its immortal meow. When Wang Ling had given them lessons back then, apart from popularizing the concept of team management, he had also given them psychological counseling. These stray cats respected it as immortal meow. When Wang Ling had taught them back then, in addition to popularizing the concept of team management, he had also given them psychological counseling. Wang Ling didn't know how stray cats in other places viewed humans, but at least in Peiyuan District, They had their own lives. They lived in harmony with humans. There were even plenty of righteous men who would escort ladies home in the middle of the night when they were walking alone on the streets, so that they wouldn't be attacked by criminals. Thus, Wang Ling was very confident. These cats he had trained wouldn't do anything to harm humans. However, what if these special magic weapons fell into the hands of intelligent animals who happened to have dark hearts? There was no telling what the consequences would be. When Wang Ling saw a black cat and its subordinates slowly push out a mountain gun the size of a shopping basket from a hidden haystack, Wang Ling felt that the scene was a little wonderful. With this Yidali cannon, it would definitely be easy to blast a hole in this solid black crystal wall. Furthermore, it wouldn't completely destroy the building. Of course, Wang Ling had also considered Jinka before. But Jinka was actually a little similar to him. As a sword spirit, he was still too young and inexperienced, so he didn't know what to do. Wang Ling was afraid that Jinka would cut the stadium in two with one slash. Thus, he could only pin all his hopes on this Yidali cannon, which had been developed by King Billy's team. At this moment, Wang Ling couldn't do anything else, and even had to maintain a certain frequency of breathing, for fear that something would happen to him when the power of the talisman seal weakened. Even a sneeze at this time could kill someone. However, Wang Ling could still use some simple support spells. Number 59 High School's old school guard hadn't left yet, and the sound of the Yidali cannon would inevitably attract his attention, so Wang Ling set up a barrier to isolate the sound. Zheng Tan put on its goggles and stood next to the Yidali cannon, with its hands on its slender waist. 2nd Battalion Commander, are you ready? Ready. Regiment Commander. Zheng Tan nodded and pressed its little cat paw on the cannon's sensor identification area to confirm the regiment commander's identity. Following Zheng Tan's gaze, the muzzle of the cannon pointed at a certain point in the wall. Fire! 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 3 shots were fired, and they were majestic and magnificent. With a boom, a beam of spirit light shot straight out of the muzzle. In just a split second, a hole as tall as half a person was instantly blasted open in the wall. In the women's locker room, Wang Ming was instantly woken up by this loud explosion. Jiang Luiying stood dumbly on the spot as she watched the scene outside through the hole in the wall, her face pale with shock. On the other end of the wristwatch, a woman's voice rang out. I heard an explosion. What's going on? Jiang Luiying's mouth twitched. Chapter 60. Gazing at this hole. It wasn't just Jiang Luiying and Wang Ming, but also the woman on the other end of the line were silent. It was obvious that words couldn't directly convey the impact and shock of this scene in front of them. What Jiang Luiying saw was a black cat wearing goggles, one hand on its waist and one hand pressing down on the cannon as it stared at Jiang Luiying. There was a dazzling array of cats around and behind this black cat. On the ground, on the trees, and even on the walls hung ninja cats in black. Furthermore, Jiang Luiying realized that the vast majority of these cats could actually stand on 2 feet. What the F***K? If they had a pair of wings, wouldn't they all be F***King surpassers? Happy possession. There were a lot of intelligent pets these days, but all of them were strictly controlled by Huaxiao Nation's quarantine department. Such a large number of intelligent stray cats had gathered here, and they were even holding a frightening Yidali cannon in their hands. In Jiang Luiying's opinion, this scale and momentum was no less than a small demon rampage. The reason why the demon beasts from the gate between worlds were so frightening wasn't just because of their destructive power, but also because of their organization and discipline. Every time the gate between worlds had invaded Earth in the past, the demon beasts on the other end had discussed the invasion plan first. The current situation was far beyond Jiang Luiying's expectations. It was very obvious that this was a premeditated and planned rescue operation, and the target of this rescue operation was actually a bunch of cats. The woman on the other end of the line was baffled. Are you still asleep? Sis, I'm really not lying to you. You might not believe it, but there really was a bunch of cats. Oh no, a division of cats surrounding me. Especially the black cat leading them. It was looking at me lustfully. Charcoal. F***K. How dare you slander me? On the other end of the line, the woman fell silent again. After an enigmatic silence, she spoke again. I think there really is something wrong with your brain. Are you out of it? Why don't we cancel this mission? Sis, let me explain. Jiang Luiying was rendered speechless by her sister's words. Before she could continue, the woman on the other end of the line continued. To be on the safe side, I'll give you half an hour to come back. After saying that, before Jiang Luiying could explain further, the woman had directly hung up. The young girl was left dumbfounded as she stared at a teacher's cat. After a brief daze, the girl rolled up her sleeves and pouted at the cats. You little things, do you think I'm afraid of you? The girl's strength was unfathomable, and she was no ordinary golden core cultivator. Wang Ling's eyes were like radar, and with just one glance he could see through her. This was a rare cultivator with 2 golden cores. There were 2 golden cores in his dantian. Their combined strength was dozens of times stronger than an ordinary expert at the peak of the golden elixir realm. The feeling of oppression from the angry girl was very obvious. Even the slightest fluctuation in her emotions was enough to make Wang Ming's face tremble like a wave. Although Zheng Tan had spiritual intelligence, it was at best a cat at the foundation establishment stage. Just a little pressure from the girl's emotions was enough to make its black fur instantly stand on end. Right after that, the cats of the division behind it all stood up like hedgehogs. Suddenly, a bald head popped out of the crowd and shouted, Commander, watch out! The monk, the commander of Battalion 1, pounced on Zheng Tan and threw it to the side. The cats of the guard company behind it also pounced on Zheng Tan and pinned it under their bodies. To be honest, Zheng Tan was very touched. After all, this was to protect itself. But when more than 10 cats suddenly pounced on it and pinned it under their bodies, it almost suffocated to death. What are you doing? Zheng Tan peeked its black head out from the pile of cats with deep resentment. Protect the boss, watch out for her chest. The cats said in unison. The monk nodded. This woman's chest is the size of a normal human woman's. So I seriously suspect that it contains a weapon of mass destruction. Zheng Tan. Wang Ling. Even Wang Ming sucked in a cold breath. On one hand, he had been frightened by this bunch of cats talking in human language, and on the other hand, he was astonished by the level at which they spoke. As the strongest brain in Huaxiu Nation, Wang Ming had a basic understanding of these cats' IQs. The black cat in the lead was definitely the highest, followed by the bald cat next to it. As far as animals were concerned, Wang Ming felt that the IQs of these 2 cats might even be higher than those of normal humans. Of course, they definitely wouldn't be higher than him. Wang Ming looked at the girl. I say, big sister, haven't you noticed yet? Jiang Luiying had a dazed and puzzled expression on her face. For the first time, Wang Ling and Wang Ming, these 2 sworn brothers, had a tacit understanding that resonated with each other. As the saying went, big breasts and no brains. It now looked like it wasn't without reason. Big sister, given your realm, you can crush a golden core cultivator to death with one hand. Don't you realize that your oppressive might is completely useless now? This bunch of cats only have spiritual intelligence, but their actual strength isn't that strong. But now, under your oppression, they're still alive and kicking. Realization instantly dawned on the girl, and beads of sweat started to appear on her fair little face. She should have sensed it earlier. Under normal circumstances, this bunch of kittens, including this man who had no spirit energy at all, shouldn't even be able to move under her oppression. But this bunch of cats were actually playing and frolicking in the distance? Taking all these factors into account, the girl could only think of one possibility. That was, there was someone here who was even more heaven-defying than she was. That was why it was possible that her oppressive might have been affected, and that her oppressive might hadn't been able to seep out in the first place. It was like a hole that had burst a dam and was suddenly blocked. Who on earth was it? Jiang Luiying's gaze started to wander quickly between the large group of cats. At the same time, she began to release her spiritual senses frequently, as if trying hard to identify auras among them. At that moment, it seemed that the girl's IQ had finally been recharged. and she started to suspect whether there was something fishy going on between these cats. For example, there was an expert who had used shape-shifting or illusion spells to blend in with these cats. If that was really the case, it could sometimes be identified by carefully distinguishing auras. However, this method of identifying auras was only limited to when the gap between the two parties' realms wasn't too big. To be honest, if he had enough time, he could indeed calm down and play with the girl for a while longer. But now wasn't the time for hide and seek. There were only 10 minutes left, and the world was going to be King destroyed. And so, under Jiang Luiying's extremely stupefied gaze, she saw a black and white Persian cat amidst this vast crowd of cats. Step by step, it gracefully walked out of the crowd. At the same time, all the nearby cats very consciously made way for it. Was this it? The girl instantly became vigilant. Just as she was about to circulate her spirit energy, she felt a force surge out of this Persian cat and press down on her. Then, she was stunned to find that her spirit energy was actually stuck in her dantian halfway through its circulation. Furthermore, she realized that she had been imprisoned by an oppressive might and couldn't move. K. Chapter 61. A cat could actually exert such powerful pressure? The girl's shocked and pale eyes were also filled with fear. She couldn't move at all. Even her tongue was numb along with her body, and she couldn't speak. In this situation, she couldn't even use the void stone. At that moment, the girl recalled what her big sister had said, but it was too late to regret it. She should have left earlier. Wang Ling felt that the girl seemed to have misunderstood something, because he hadn't released his aura or pressure to suppress her. The reason was very simple. The release of coercion was a large-scale group attack. If he recklessly released coercion without control, not only would this girl turn into a pile of meat paste, even his idiot brother, and the cat of an entire division outside would be affected and turned into dregs. So the reason why the girl couldn't move was actually the effect of the overlord body's backlash, which Wang Ling had unconsciously activated. This effect could double the pressure he had exerted on himself and reflect it back at him. The principle was actually pretty much the same as a physical backlash. For a specific case study, he could refer to burying Love Young Master Su Ying, who had been turned into dregs by Wang Ling's backlash back then. Looking at the flustered and exasperated girl who couldn't resist, Wang Ming just thought it was a little funny. At the same time, he knew that Wang Ming had already seen through his identity. Although Wang Ling didn't think that his relationship with Wang Ming couldn't be considered too good, he had to admit that they had a pretty good rapport when it came to some strange things. The moment the wall had been blasted open, Wang Ming had known that it had to be Wang Ling. He looked at his wristwatch. There were less than 10 minutes left before the old version of the talisman seal would lose its effect. Wang Ming took out the talisman from his chest pocket and carefully tied it to Wang Ling's arm like a band-aid. The seal had finally been reinforced. Wang Ling gripped the cat's paw. The new version of the talisman was indeed more powerful than the old one. He could clearly sense that his strength had been significantly limited. The first 3 months after the talisman was installed were the most restrictive. For the next 3 months, Wang Ling almost didn't have to worry about breaking his chopsticks while eating, and he could even do radio gymnastics without worry. For Wang Ling, this was great news. He was happier than eating crispy noodle snacks. In order to make this talisman, I refined materials for nearly 3 years, and also fused some new ones. This time, it's valid for 5 years. It should be enough for you for a while. Wang Ming didn't open his mouth, but spoke in his heart. Wang Ling could hear him clearly with his mind-reading ability. After all, there were still outsiders here, and the talisman was a secret that must not be known by others. In some sense, Wang Ming felt that Wang Ling's uncontrollable and constantly growing realm was a state secret that was more worth protecting than his so-called strongest brain in Huaxiao Nation. But Wang Ming treated this as his own secret. He had promised Father and Mother Wang that he wouldn't mention it to outsiders. Even Wang Ming's own parents didn't know this secret. If this secret were to be exposed, it would very likely lead to an endless war. As for Wang Ling, it was very likely that the country would view him as a war machine. Thus, Wang Ming was actually very concerned about Wang Ling. Never mind that she had been helping Wang Ling develop talismans, with even more restrictive effects. He was even more tight-lipped when it came to secrets. Wang Ling felt that at the very least, he and Wang Ming were on the same page on this matter. Wang Ling's wish was world peace. And this was also Wang Ming's elder brother's original wish. Looking at the girl who couldn't move, Wang Ming turned his head and asked Wang Ling, "What should we do with this person?" Wang Ling raised his eyebrows. What else could he do? Hand her over to the country, of course. From the very beginning, Wang Ling hadn't planned to do anything. Getting rid of a small killer like this was of no value to him. But if he handed her over to the cultivation police, it would instead be a huge boost to the investigation into the Shadow Stream incident. Get rid of one killer, but there were still thousands of killers. Helping the cultivation police to root out an international mafia den. This was the quality of a good citizen, who upheld the core values of cultivation. Of course, Wang Ling didn't intend to take credit for this matter. It would be up to this Huaxiao nation's strongest brain to sort out the final mess. Wang Ming bent down and fumbled in the girl's pocket for a moment, before retrieving the stolen void stone. Then, he pointed at the girl who seemed to have been hit by the sunflower acupuncture hand, and sighed in his heart. Knock this guy out first. Wang Ling pondered for a moment, and in the end did as he was told. For the first time, Wang Ling felt like these two brothers were in cahoots. At the entrance to the stadium, the entire division of cats had already dispersed, leaving only Zheng Tan, De Biao and the monk. On the side, Jiang Luiying had already been tied up by Zheng Tan and the others, and was completely wrapped up like a meat dumpling. Zheng Tan gripped Wang Ling's little white paw tightly, crystal tears welling up in its eyes. It's so great to be able to fight alongside Immortal Meow this time. Don't worry, Immortal Meow. Our regiment's engineering team will repair that hole overnight. Wang Ling. Wang Ling recalled the research cats in white coats he had seen at Zheng Tan's base before. Coupled with this engineering team, Wang Ling felt that in another 2 or 3 years, they would be able to King build missiles. Wang Ling didn't say anything, and only buried his shock in his heart, before waving goodbye to Zheng Tan and the other cats. Zheng Tan and the other cats watched Wang Ling, as they waved their little paws, until he disappeared at the end of the road. Only then did they reluctantly leave. To be able to fight alongside Immortal Meow was an honor that Zheng Tan felt was enough to be recorded in the cat clan's annals of history. If it hadn't been for Zheng Tan's help this time, Wang Ling felt that the consequences would have been very hard to predict. Wang Ling had only taken a few steps away from Zheng Tan's line of sight, when he suddenly sensed a familiar aura nearby. It was Old Antique's aura. Wang Ling probed it with his spiritual senses, and sure enough, he found that Old Antique and Director Xia were strolling hand in hand not far away. They were approaching him little by little. Wang Ming was also startled by the sudden appearance of these people, but he quickly smiled and took the initiative to greet them. Yo! Hello, teachers! Wang Ming knew it was time to show off his acting skills. Director Xia was startled. Why were there still parents at school at this time? Director Xia found it very strange. In order for the Spirit Sword exchange meet to go smoothly tomorrow, she had already given the order that all teachers in charge weren't allowed to stay in class today. This was to prevent lawbreakers from sneaking into the school as parents. Hence, Old Antique and Xia Huaichuan were instantly on high alert at Wang Ming's appearance. This wasn't the strangest thing. The strangest thing was that there was an unconscious girl wrapped up like a dumpling next to him. Was this cosplay or bundled up? You are. I'm Wang Ling's older brother. My name is Wang Shower. I'm here to see Wang Ling. Wang Ming took out his ID card. Oh, Wang Ling's older brother. Old Antique looked at the ID card to confirm Wang Ming's identity, then turned to look at Director Xia and said, Wang Ling is my student. He's also here for the Spirit Sword exchange meet this time. Oh, I see. Hearing Old Antique's explanation, Director Xia let down her guard a little. What are you doing here at this time? I was originally going to look for Wang Ling, but before I could find him, I ran into a Shadow Stream Gold Ribbon Killer, who was here to scout out the school. Then I took care of her in passing, so I wasted some time. Wang Ming pointed at the dumpling on the ground. Shadow Stream Gold Ribbon Killer. Director Xie was shocked. A killer sneaking into the school without a sound was a big deal. What evidence do you have to prove that she's a Shadow Stream Killer? Director Xie was still skeptical about the girl's identity. Furthermore, Old Antique also had his doubts. They had no reason to completely believe a stranger's words. If the two teachers don't believe me, you can look at the ribbon on this girl's arm to verify it. When Zheng Tan had been doing the bundling up just now, Wang Ming had asked it to reveal a little of Jiang Luiying's arm. The ribbon of a Shadow Stream Killer was made of a very special material, which was also direct evidence of a killer's identity. When Old Antique found the ribbon on the girl's arm, his heart was instantly shaken. It really was a Shadow Stream Gold Ribbon Killer. Old Antique was almost more sensitive to things from the world of killers than an ordinary person. Chapter 62. After that, this 36D girl, who was very likely to be the legendary master of Shadow Stream, was taken away by the cultivation police for interrogation that very night, along with Wang Ming. As a direct participant in this matter, Wang Ming had to go along and give a statement. Old Antique and Director Xie walked Wang Ming to the school gate, and Director Xie gripped Wang Ming's hand tightly. It's all thanks to Mr. Wang's timely intervention that we were able to nip these criminals in the bud. Otherwise the consequences would have been really hard to predict. Teacher Xie, you flatter me, this is what I should do. Upholding justice and upholding justice. This has always been a cultivator's principle, hasn't it? But I'm very curious, why can't I sense a trace of spirit energy from Mr. Wang? Could it be that Mr. Wang has some kind of magic treasure? Magic treasure? Do I still need a magic treasure at my realm? Wang Ming shook his head mysteriously and smiled slightly. Before Wang Ming could finish speaking, Director Xie and Old Antique instantly understood. Since he wasn't using a magic treasure to hide his aura, the only remaining reason was that this Mr. Wang had an extremely high realm to begin with. Otherwise, this Shadow Stream Gold Ribbon Killer wouldn't have been taken down so easily. On the side, Old Antique couldn't help sighing. I never expected Mr. Wang to have such unfathomable strength at such a young age. It really makes us admire you. Wang Ling. This guy was 2F*** King easy to fool, wasn't he? Mr. Wang, is this your cat? It looks like it's been following you. As he spoke, Director Xie noticed Wang Ling had been worried that this killer girl would wake up halfway, which was why he had been following Wang Ming. On the way here just now, he had been wondering whether he should stab the girl one more time to knock her out even more thoroughly. Only now, after seeing the police stick a Dao talisman seal on the girl wrapped up like a dumpling, was Wang Ling able to breathe a sigh of relief. Wang Ming had come to give him the talisman without asking for his authority. Thus, Huaxiao Nation's officials hadn't sent anyone to protect Wang Ming. If something happened to this most powerful brain here, even Wang Ling himself couldn't imagine how many people would be alarmed by this incident. First of all, a thorough investigation of number 59 High School and number 60 High School was unavoidable, which would be very bad for hiding his identity. Although he really didn't want to admit it, he couldn't deny that he and his dumbass brother were locusts tied to the same rope. Thus, after thinking it over, Wang Ling decided to follow Wang Ming for now. In any case, he had to wait for the police to arrive and ensure Wang Ming's safety first. Who knew that Dean Xie would suddenly notice him? Some people's idiocy was reflected in their IQ and EQ, but Wang Ming's idiocy was more reflected in the details of his life. For example, indulging in beauty, or pretending to be a cultivator. Wang Ming's emergency response was usually pretty quick. Director Xie said that this cat, maybe there's something about me that attracted it, so it followed me. Wang Ling. Attract your furball. Hearing Director Xie mention Wang Ling, Wang Ming smiled sinisterly. Then, he bent down and picked up Wang Ling, who had turned into a cat. Raise him up high. Wang Ling. Raise your mother. For the first time, Wang Ling realized that he had actually been teased by this dumbass. F***K. Just you wait. Wang Ming sat in the cultivation police car. The girl, who had been tied up like a rice dumpling, was placed in a cage at the back of the car and was guarded by 2 female police officers. As for Wang Ming, he obediently sat in the back of the car, with 2 male police officers on each side. Given Wang Ming's personality, he would never let himself be the recipient of this so-called glory. Because in the end, Wang Ming used the identity of Wang Shower, not Wang Ming himself. Thus, Wang Ming didn't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. The only thing that Wang Ming felt gratified about was that he had actually teased his stupido duo on this trip to number 59 high school to deliver the talismans. Although he hadn't been able to find an opportunity to challenge Wang Ling for the 100th time this time, Wang Ming still felt that this trip hadn't been in vain. But Wang Ming felt that this trip hadn't been in vain this time. On the way, Wang Ming analyzed the 2 police officers' expressions, which looked as if they had eaten shit, and concluded that they had definitely just gotten off work when they had been notified to rush over. They had caught a big fish this time, and overtime was definitely unavoidable. So they were clearly in an exceptionally bad mood right now. The 2 police officers stared at Wang Ming. If possible, would Mr. Wang please show me your ID? To save time, let's start taking the statement now. Wang Ming obediently handed over his ID, but when the 2 police officers saw the name and place of birth on it, they were stunned on the spot. Fragrant Pavilion and Water Pavilion, Yending Heavenly Palace, Tianba City, Huaxiao Nation. There was one in Tianba City, but what the hell was Fragrant Pavilion and Water Pavilion in Yending Heavenly Palace? The 2 police officers stared blankly at the place of birth on the ID for a long while. Then, they looked at Wang Ming with a pained expression. Mr. Wang, can you stop joking at a time like this? Wang Ming felt very wronged. I say, comrade police officers, do you think you can tell if my ID is real or fake with your eyes? Mr. Wang, do you know that if you use a fake ID, you'll be arrested for Puo or Longjing? It would be even better if you had a 82 Sprite. The 2 police officers had to work overtime today, so they weren't in a good mood. Now that they were being teased like this, one of the police officers gave Wang Ming an angry look. Then do a test. If it turns out to be fake, I'll detain you for 15 days. Do as you wish. Wang Ming shrugged fearlessly. Thus, 2 minutes later, the 2 police officers in the car saw a verification list drawn up by the ID card scanner. After carefully reading through this long string of mysterious characters' experiences, the 2 of them stared at the line. The above information has been verified by Huaxiao Nation's National Cultivation Police Department. In unison, and fell into deep thought. Furthermore, they started to doubt their lives. Less than half an hour after Wang Ming had entered the police station to take his statement, a limited edition Aguanhai Black War chariot stopped steadily at the entrance of the cultivation police station. 2 researchers in white coats hurriedly got out of the car and rushed to the police station. They brought Wang Ming out of the police station in less than 5 minutes. When the 2 police officers who had been responsible for taking Wang Ming's statement arrived at the entrance, they were astonished to find that the chief had actually come to the entrance to see them off. He waved goodbye to Wang Ming with an apologetic smile on his face. The 2 police officers were stupefied. Who on earth was this person? Chapter 63. The arrest of a girl suspected to be the master of Shadowstream had caused quite a stir. Back then, the red ribbon killers that Shadowstream had sent had been completely wiped out. Now, number 60 high school had come to number 59 high school for the exchange meet. In the end, this gold ribbon killer, who had wanted to take advantage of the exchange meet to cause mischief, had been arrested before she could even take the first step in her plan. The most important thing was that the person who had arrested this girl was actually the elder brother of a student at number 60 high school. Number 60 high school again. Everyone recalled all the recent Shadow Stream incidents. The National Cultivation Police had originally issued a red investigation order to investigate, but there had been no progress for several years. In the end, in less than a month after school started, a breakthrough had been created one after another around a small ordinary high school. Wasn't this school simply King toxic? This incident couldn't help but once again arouse discussion. Why had a beautiful 36D girl become a bloodthirsty demon who killed people without batting an eye? A well-prepared operation had been seen through before it had even started? Was it a twist of morality, or a twist of human nature behind all this? Was it a game between light and darkness? Or was it a showdown between scheming and wisdom? The series of questions that had arisen from this incident left people puzzled no matter how they thought about it. Until now, the detained killer girl had yet to wake up, and that Wang Xiaoer, who had stopped this vicious incident, had been forcibly taken away less than half an hour after entering the police station. It was as if this series of events had been premeditated in advance and had been completely arranged. In order to cover up Wang Ming's true identity, Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science in the end pointed out a clear path to the bewildered police officers at the Cultivation Police Department, Songhai City's general administration of 100 schools. Thus, after Secretary Dakong came to the office that day to chat nonstop for several hours, Ajwa had just returned home from the office when his home phone exploded with calls again. He glanced at the phone number. There were countless missed calls, and the one who had just called was Secretary Dakong. He had already chatted with the old leader all afternoon and was a little irritable. But he knew that he had no other choice. Ajwa had gained a lot in this position over the years. He had summed up the 4 rules of survival for 3 government departments. First, don't speak carelessly. Second, get up earlier than a chicken and sleep later than a dog. Third, work more than a donkey and eat less than a pig. And fourth, and most important, the leader's call. Never. Never. I can't die. He didn't know what the old secretary, who had talked to him for the whole afternoon, would talk about. In the end, Ajwa picked up the landline. The landline now was a holographic projection. As soon as the call was picked up, Secretary Dakong's face was projected into the void. Ajwa lived in an apartment for staff arranged by a government agency. Now that the government was promoting the fight against corruption, they wanted to embody the cadre's spirit of working hard and serving the people wholeheartedly. Therefore, all the cadre's apartments did not have any space expansion technology. This directly led to a problem. That was the relatively narrow space, which caused the holographic projection to look oversized. When he picked up the phone, he almost couldn't help laughing out loud. In the holographic projection, Secretary Dakong's nostrils were bigger than his head. Hello, little Zhuzi? Ajwa was almost startled when he heard Secretary Dakong's voice on the other end of the line. Little Zhuzi, this form of address is a little intimate. To be honest, Ajwa felt a little overwhelmed by the favor. It's already so late. Is there anything else, Secretary Dakong? Little Zhua, I really couldn't tell that you're so good at pretending. When I was in the office with you this afternoon, your expression didn't change, and your heart didn't jump. So you were secretly planning and observing in secret to give me a surprise, right? Ajwa. Hey, don't deny it. Hurry up and tell me. Did you plan to catch that girl suspected to be the master of Shadow Stream? Ajwa. I have to criticize you for this. After all, she's a gold ribbon killer. Even if you knew her route in advance, you should have at least reported it in advance. There are so many students nearby, and it's after school. It's so dangerous. Hearing this, Ajwa had a rough idea of what the old secretary was talking about. On the way home, he had received a text message from the director saying that the Cultivation Police Station in Peiyuan District had arrested a gold ribbon Shadow Stream killer, suspected to be the master of Shadow Stream, in number 59 high school. Ajwa had originally wanted to wait until he arrived at the staff apartment to investigate the situation before replying. But he hadn't expected the old secretary to call him as soon as he stepped into the house. But listening to this, Ajwa somehow felt that something wasn't quite right. He felt that this development was the same as 6 years ago. Why the hell did it feel like an easy victory? Secretary Dakong I. Alright, there's no need to explain. I know you don't want to alert the enemy. So you secretly arranged for an expert to infiltrate number 59 high school, to catch a turtle in a jar. Right? I'm telling you, you've made a great contribution this time. After preliminary interrogation, it was highly likely that this young girl who had been captured was the younger sister of the Master of Shadow Stream. Aren't you surprised? Was it a surprise? Isn't it exciting? Even though the Master of Shadow Stream hasn't truly appeared yet. But I believe that with this important clue, our Huaxiao nation won't be too far away from uncovering the Shadow Stream incident and destroying the gang's lair. Comrade Zhua, at such a young age, you actually have this kind of intelligence, lead and execution ability. As an old comrade, I really admire you. May I ask Secretary Dakong, where did this information come from? President Qi of Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science personally called me to explain it. How could it be wrong? I know little Zhuazi wants to keep a low profile, but sometimes there's really no need to hide your contributions. Ajwa sucked in a cold breath. He had no idea when he had become associated with such a big shot organization. Little Zhuazi, I didn't expect you to be so unfathomable. On the other end of the line, Sun Dakong smiled. At first, the higher-ups were considering whether or not to promote you. They were worried that you were too young and wouldn't be able to handle it. But I didn't expect that not only would you keep a low profile. We just investigated your group survey and found that your reputation is at the top of Songhai City's cadres. Don't worry, with today's incident as a foundation, just wait for your promotion. Ajwa. Also, remember to prepare well for the program. I'll be waiting to see your sky-parting sword at the Spirit Sword Exchange meet tomorrow. Chapter 64. The 4-day student exchange meet came to an end in the blink of an eye. Too many things had happened in these 4 days, such as the explosion of the Spirit Gathering Array, the collapse of the Pengxi Gang, the establishment of the General Administration of Harmony, the rehabilitation of delinquents, the near destruction of the world, and the arrest of a Shadow Stream gold ribbon assassin last night. But no one could have imagined that Wang Ling was the root cause of all this mess. Before leaving, Wang Ming had asked Old Antique and Director Xie to keep his identity a secret. The purpose of this was in fact to protect Wang Ling and prevent him from attracting too much attention. Thus, although this incident had caused a stir, apart from those inside the police department who knew that Wang Xiaoer was the elder brother of a student from number 60 high school, outsiders had very limited knowledge of this matter. They only knew that it was Comrade Ajwa of the General Administration of 100 Schools, who had once again blocked Shadow Stream's invasion and protected the flowers of the motherland. But after this incident, even Wang Ling started to doubt his own toxicity. His high school days hadn't been King peaceful. Every day, he was like a certain Grim Reaper primary school student. Wherever he went, people would die. Father and Mother Wang's wish for him was to smoothly obtain his high school graduation certificate and then smoothly enter university with a low profile. But looking at the current situation, Wang Ling felt that this road was going to be much more bumpy than he had expected. But in the end, life still had to go on. At night, number 59 high school's dormitory was quiet. Previously, Super Chun and Hirogua, these two damn fat shut-ins, had been playing online in suits, ties, watches, shiny leather shoes, and drinking drinks that cost more than 5 yuan. It wasn't until not long ago that Old Antique had forced them to turn off the game, and they had just fallen asleep. As for Lotus Sun and Feather Lin, these two girls, they had already laid down to rest for the sake of healthy skin. Old Antique sat on a folding chair and stood guard at the door. When it was almost time for school to end, Shadow Stream had taken advantage of the situation again, and Old Antique was once again on high alert. The safety of the students was the first priority. Old Antique had to ensure that the Spirit Sword Exchange meet would go smoothly tomorrow. and even more so ensure that his students wouldn't be harmed outside the school before they returned to number 60 high school. Wang Ling wasn't asleep either, touching the small wooden sword lying quietly next to him. Wang Ling's mood was very complicated. He only hoped that Jinka would behave a little more normally tomorrow. Please don't go berserk. On the fourth day, which was the third Friday of the semester, the Spirit Sword Exchange meet that everyone had been looking forward to was finally about to begin. That day, gongs and drums were deafening, firecrackers were exploding, red flags were fluttering, and there was a sea of people. The exchange meet tradition had been left behind by General Yi, one of the 10 meritorious figures who had founded the nation. Back then, General Yi had fought side by side with Minister Shi and Secretary Sun in the Battle of Sherman. He had a nickname called Sword Saint. After the Battle of Sherman back then, General Yi had left a famous saying on the stone pillar of Sherman: "Your sword is my sword." To this day, this sentence was still in history textbooks. An old antique would emphasize it every year. This time, the momentum of the Spirit Sword Exchange meet between the two academies was quite big because it coincided with the 500th anniversary of the establishment of the two academies. Number 59 High School and Number 60 High School. This pair of old enemies chose to complete this school anniversary event in the form of a Spirit Sword Exchange meet. In fact, the relationship between the two schools had become much closer. Although Tang Jing's group had stirred up a lot of trouble during these 4 days, they had all given up on the last day. But this didn't affect Tang Jing's and his group's confidence and battle of wits in winning the Spirit Sword Exchange meet this time. Since they couldn't use unorthodox methods to win, Tang Jing's felt that there was no harm in fighting them fair and square. Although, Wang Ling didn't know where this guy's confidence came from. On Number 59 High School's newly renovated wide sports field, the students of each class carried their stools and formed a circle on the track, which was divided into sections based on their classes. The empty space in the middle was reserved for the representatives of the two schools in the Spirit Sword Exchange meet this time. Wang Ling really wasn't used to an exchange meet with more than 1,000 people. He had never displayed his talents in front of so many people before. The leaders of the two schools had arrived in front of the rostrum. Number 60 High School's headmaster Chen and director Shi. Number 59 High School's headmaster Jin and director Xie. The district leaders of Peiyuan District, as well as the excited old secretary Sun Dakong and the bitter odd Zhua. To be honest, the lineup of leaders this time was very awkward. No one had expected this old secretary to show up. Of course, the students didn't know Secretary Sun's identity at all. Furthermore, they all felt that this person was a little neurotic. They had never seen a leader wearing a motorcycle helmet on stage before. But the students could also tell that this helmet-wearing old man's identity wasn't ordinary. He was most likely a number 1 figure. Furthermore, he was a number 1 figure that even Wang Ling hadn't expected. Among the students present, only Wang Ling's heart was as clear as a mirror. To be honest, he was very afraid that this old secretary would see some clues from his actions. Not daring to look directly into the old secretary's eyes, Wang Ling sighed deeply in his heart. Now he could only hope that he could perform as muggle-headed as possible in the Spirit Sword Exchange meet. It really wasn't a good thing to be targeted by such an almighty. In the silence, the old secretary looked around and looked at the two school leaders with a strange expression. "Why haven't you started yet?" Headmaster Chen and Headmaster Jin had helpless expressions on their faces. "The biggest leader here is you. If you don't say anything, who the hell dares to start?" Hearing the old leader's words, as the host of the Spirit Sword Exchange meet this time, Headmaster Jin sorted out his thoughts before he smiled and spoke. His voice drifted into everyone's ears. Then, on behalf of the school leaders from Number 59 High School and Number 60 High School, I would like to express our gratitude to the 10 elite students from both schools who are participating in the Spirit Sword Exchange meet this time. It is precisely because of your excellence that our cultivation education will be even more glorious. The old secretary took the lead in applauding thunderously, Seeing the old secretary clap, the other school leaders on the side clapped even louder, for fear that they would make the old secretary unhappy if they didn't have the energy to clap. Everyone knew that the old secretary was a lively person and very much liked to visit incognito places. He had already secretly attended more than 100 exchange meets like this one organized by the schools. This time, the headmasters of the two schools actually felt very honored that the old secretary had personally come to the scene without being invited. But more than that, they were actually terrified. After the applause, the scene fell silent for a moment. The female teacher, who was in charge of hosting the event on the stage, took the microphone and began to read out the competition rules. This time, there won't be individual events for the Spirit Sword Exchange meet. Instead, holographic images will be fused with cultivation spirit talismans to form an array. Through a perfect simulation of the trial environment in real pain, a team competition will take place. Finally, the team's victory will be decided based on the number of points it obtains in the event. Apart from the reference points gained during the Spirit Sword duel, you can also earn game coins to buy magic treasures and props to make the competition more interesting and flexible. Chapter 65. The competition system this time seems a little different from the ones I've seen in the past. Hearing the rules of the competition from the female host, the old secretary's eyes instantly lit up. In the previous Spirit Sword Exchange meets, the students basically had to show off their talents, and then the judges would grade them according to how smoothly they controlled their swords. It was both procedural and patterned, and it could be said to be boring to the extreme. But this time, the competition system was based on the team's point of view. The judges were eliminated, and the entire scoring process was handed over to the system as a comprehensive judge. This kind of scoring wasn't subjective, and was instead more fair and just. Headmaster Jean smiled slightly. The competition system this time was personally proposed by General E at the standing committee meeting, and it will be implemented by our two schools. This female host's explanation is a little complicated. Is there a simplified version of the competition rules? To put it simply, this competition is more like a 5v5 MOBA game. There are 3 paths, each of which contains an outer tower, a second tower, and a high tower. The students are free to choose the path they want to defend until they destroy the enemy's base crystal. After entering the game, the students can also choose one of the system's built-in functional skills. So far, only Teleport, Ignite, Heal, and Flash have been unlocked. Overall, it's more interesting and confrontational than before. Headmaster Jean said. After officially entering the virtual space, the students' data, including the spirit swords they are wearing, will be converted into data. The system will compile the data and convert the students' overall strength into data. The value of the spirit sword will be estimated based on its score. There are 2 things that the students have to do. First, they have to develop steadily and absorb the experience of small soldiers or wild monsters to grow. After the data is converted, the students' overall strength will be divided into 20 parts, which are 20 levels. Each increase in level unlocks 5% of their strength. After reaching the maximum level, they will have their original true strength. Second, they have to collect as many game coins as possible in a short period of time to exchange for small magic treasures, and finally synthesize their own spirit sword. That's not bad. Secretary Sun nodded. The leveling up mode is very challenging. Furthermore, synthesizing spirit swords will also help them improve their rapport with them. But how is the value measured? To ensure fairness, the stronger the spirit sword, the higher the value. For example, Student Lotus Sun's mysterious sea sword has already nurtured a sword spirit, so there are a lot of small parts that need to be collected and synthesized. I estimate the total value to be around 5,000 game coins, Director Sia answered on the side. Just as the leaders on the stage were whispering to each other, the female host on the high platform said, "Next, I announce the activation of the array. The game officially begins." The current formations were very advanced, and were all voice-activated. Before the formation was set up, the female host's voice had already been recorded. Therefore, after hearing the order, a green light immediately appeared on the large field. Buzz! Then, a green pillar of light that connected heaven and earth appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The people from number 60 high were the first to step into the beam of light. To the naked eye of the onlookers, they gradually disintegrated into particles and disappeared along with the green beam of light. Let's go too. Tang Jingze and the others gritted their teeth and led Feng Huaqing, Liang Wei, Liang Zheng, and Liang Fei into the pillar of light. The students from both schools entered the virtual space one after another. What happened next could only be seen through the big screen on the field. This time, the map was strictly based on the common 5v5 MOBA game design. There was also a stone tablet erected next to the red and blue bases, which shamelessly had the words Cultivator's Ravine carved on it. The crystal tower, the base, and even the monsters in the jungle had been perfectly restored by killing the small soldiers sent out by the base every 30 seconds and the monsters that constantly spawned on the map. You could obtain the corresponding game coins to synthesize the magic treasures you needed. The ultimate way to win was to destroy the enemy base. Although Wang Ling rarely played games, he had some understanding of the basic rules of this type of game. In addition to being confrontational, this type of game also had to consider the operational aspects of the team. The key was to synthesize the most offensive magic treasures as soon as possible. But because this was a spirit sword exchange meet, as soon as they entered the store, they realized that apart from the spirit swords they were carrying which had been converted into data, there were almost no other offensive magic treasures. Furthermore, although everyone's spirit swords were in the store, they were bound to each other, and apart from their own swords, no one else's spirit swords could be bought. As for the rest of the magic treasures, most of them were functional or defensive. General E had personally designed these things, and no one had known the attributes of these magic treasures before. They relied purely on on-the-spot application and performance. F***K. There are so many things. Won't it take us until tomorrow morning just to read the instructions? The hell? Why is my climbing dragon sword so cheap? Only 998? There's something wrong with the system's data analysis. After the group from No. 59 High School entered the virtual space, they spent a full 5 minutes discussing their route, and another 10 minutes browsing through the treasures in the shop. In contrast, number 60 High School was much more harmonious sometimes. Having someone who talked to themselves could indeed save a lot of time. Then it's decided. I'll go top lane. Student Lotus Sun will go middle lane. Little You will farm the jungle. And Master of Dopey and Student Wang Ling will be responsible for the bottom lane duo. Each person had 500 game coins to start with. After deciding everyone's route on his own, Super Chun, this damn fat nerd who had been playing games for many years, chose the most common beginner's blank sword, chose the Ignite skill, and went out. Name, beginner's blank sword. Type, weapon, quality, normal, attack power, 10 gold coins, 350, description. Spirit swords can be combined into a universal magic treasure, the best choice for home or travel. Lotus Sun found her mysterious C in the store, and was surprised to find that it was actually priced at 5,800 game coins. She hurriedly chose the same configuration as Super Chun, and went out to spend money. This equipment was too late in development, and would take a long time to take shape. But once it was combined, Lotus Sun felt that it would be the key to victory. Feather Lin, who had chosen the jungle clearing route, chose a small beginner's hunting knife, which was sold for 500 game coins. The hunting knife had a higher attack power than the blank sword, and also had a little HP recovery effect. This was the only item in the entire game, other than the spirit sword, that could increase one's attack power. Otherwise, it would take a long time to deal with the demon wolf Fenrir in the wilderness with the newbie's blank sword. Good luck everyone. Don't lose face for our school. After choosing her starting equipment, Feather Lin followed Lotus Sun out of the base. Name, small beginner's hunting knife. Type, weapon quality, average, attack power, 30 gold coins, 500 description. When you kill a large monster, you will receive a 10% damage bonus and a 10% HP recovery effect. This is the key magic treasure for combining the Bear Grylls blade. When the Bear Grylls blade is successfully combined, you can instantly punish a monster, turn it into beef, and share the protein with your teammates to enjoy the HP recovery effect. Now, only Wang Ling and Hero Guo were left. The bottom lane combination was usually a support position and an attack position. Naturally, Wang Ling chose the support position without thinking, since it was the least eye-catching. In the dazzling store, Wang Ling saw Hero Guo's Ghost Teeth sword, which was priced at 2,800. Looking at the data, it was still quite powerful. After that, Hero Guo also chose a blank sword to go out. Wang Ling, hurry up, I can't handle it alone. The reason why Wang Ling hadn't gone out for so long was that he was still looking for Jinka in the store. He had initially been worried that he would display it in public, and was afraid that Jinka would go berserk halfway through. But now that Jinka had been converted into game data, Wang Ling really wasn't curious about how much Jinka was worth. There were no less than 1,000 swords in the store, and in the end, Wang Ling found Jinka in a very inconspicuous little corner at the very bottom of the inventory. Name: Jinka Peachwood Sword. Type: Weapon Quality: Average. Attack Power: Unknown. Gold coins. 1 description: a seemingly useless peachwood sword. Perhaps hanging it around the neck can ward off evil spirits? You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.